Good evening, my fellow Americans. This is your president, Samuel Ronan, speaking. And today is Worldwide Wednesdays. But before we get into worldwide conflicts and issues, I realize that I did not finish setting up. So give me a quick second to address that. All right. The fog of war has lifted. Among many things that have happened in just the past 24 hours, not least of which is the Nepalese revolution being led by Gen Z, or the fact that the flotilla going to Gaza was bombed and attacked by Israel, Charlie Kirk has also been killed. He is confirmed dead. And the most notable point of all that is that he died at a rally where he was talking about gun violence and answering questions with his very brand-worthy rhetoric concerning his opinions on gun violence. The question I believe that was asked right prior to the moment of his death was, have mass shootings, or do you know the number of mass shootings that have occurred in America? And he responded with, are we including or excluding gang-related violence, at which point he was shot. So, Blake, we're going to get all into that. We are definitely, but we do need to cover Charlie Kirk, even though, much like all the other right-wing conservative talking heads that have ceased to exist, they don't deserve the platform that we are giving them by talking about their deaths. Suffice to say, many have very strong opinions, either celebrating his death or condemning people who are celebrating his death or condemning, the violence in general and wanting us to come together as a country. So let me be very clear. Where I, Samuel Ronan, President of the United States, stand on the issue of gun violence, and Charlie Kirk, who has made an entire career on fomenting violence, segregating our nation, encouraging disparagement and derogatory behavior towards women, minorities, and immigrants, who has said that the Palestinians do not exist, and even if they do exist, that they deserve the violence that they have received, and then later started rolling that back, stating that Hamas is to blame, and so on, etc., et alia, to include today, where he was espousing his continued rhetoric about how the Second Amendment is a small price to pay for the lives of children and victims of mass shootings, school shootings, and utilizing the talking point that a transgender person had committed the most recent massive shooting and was condemning transgender people, fomenting more hate, fear, and vitriol against one of the most vulnerable minority demographics in the country. His death is a tragedy. His murder is a tragedy. That is not what the Second Amendment is for. And the reason why it's a tragedy is because that motherfucker will never face justice for his myriad crimes against humanity, fomenting civil unrest, supporting, abling, abetting, and advocating for genocide, and spreading disinformation about minority groups that are already vulnerable and targeted by this administration, by the police, and by paramilitary groups, either from the state or from domestic militias. The fact that he would have been guilty of said crimes and would have been found guilty and sentenced for those crimes that could have carried the death penalty and then could have been put to death by the state for the crimes that he could and would have been convicted for, that is the tragedy. That is the tragedy. That is the failure that has occurred in this situation and under these circumstances. And quite frankly, The calls for peace and togetherness and to put all these hard feelings aside is foolish, because that's how fascism wins, right? If you try to turn the other cheek, you are not Jesus Christ. You will not be nailed to the cross and be resurrected 3 days later. You will be nailed to the cross and die. You cannot allow fascists to win. You cannot allow them to gain a single step, a single inch, a single millimeter, a single atom of progress in their values and in their platform, because they will always reach for more control, more violence, more other. So, when I say that I regret Charlie Kirk has died, it is not because of the peace and love and we should come together, but because he deserved to face justice, a real trial in a real tribunal for his real contribution to the civil unrest that is making America suffer prominently, and for brainwashing vulnerable, insecure men across the country and turning conservatism into white supremacist, nationalist authoritarianism. He was a primary contributor to that shift of conservatism from being fiscal responsibility and traditional values to the fascist nonsense that we have today. And the fact that he can never face justice because he is no longer with us is what infuriates me the most. So, I will leave it at that. Hello, Mr. Prez. Hello, Anna. Hello, Blake. A fascist died today. Is Greta okay? I think so. I don't think she was on the ship that got attacked. I also don't think she's on the current flotilla. I pray for his family and soul. No, don't pray for his family. Don't pray for his soul. Human beings may not be able to judge souls and actions in lives, but we do have laws and systems in place that speak for themselves. It is for God to judge. But if others condemn, well, who are we to stop them? May God have mercy on his soul, for many shall not. Those are the only words I have to give. Charlie didn't believe in empathy, so we shouldn't have any for him, and I don't. Even though statistically white cis men kill people en masse the most. Exactly. Someone clip this, please. I want to share it. If you can clip it, because I don't know how, please do. Christo-fascism, you're right. That's even worse because it's bringing back zealotry, i.e. the same shit that was, the Dark Ages. He's one of the reasons why Gen Z guys are so right-wing. Exactly. 100%. Oh, she is on the flotilla. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. I mean, praying for the kids. Kids are innocent until, their environment or nature takes hold. So we can only hope that his kids overcome his father's hateful values, beliefs, and rhetoric. Legacy at this. Now it's a legacy because he's no longer with us. So, we're all better off without that monster around, and I'm not even going to pretend otherwise. If Netanyahu dropped dead tomorrow or was assassinated tomorrow, we would be celebrating that death as well. Just like we would have celebrated Trump's death, J.D. Vance's death, RFK Jr.'s death, Tom Homan's death. There are a lot of people that deserve to die, whose death would make the world a better and brighter place for all. There are plenty of reasons why the death penalty should remain in effect, should remain in existence, and should be carried out, of course, through the justice system. But then we need to purge the justice system of those who would spare the lives of those who are most worthy of being condemned, because we also have a very corrupt criminal justice system. So unfortunately, like I was talking about yesterday, for a system to change, we either have to fight for it and defend it as it is and prove that it is salvageable, or we have to destroy fascism and then rebuild a new system that can never be co-opted by fascism again, which is going to be difficult in general because, well, fascism always finds a way, right? So we have to create a policy and a system that can survive long enough for our society to evolve past the ability of being influenced by fascist ideology. Probably until, at the very least, the second coming, if he's not tossed into the lake. To be honest, I don't know how it works. I don't agree with the death penalty because I don't trust liberal democracy to use it in the very specific way it can be carried out ethically. No, I agree with you, and that's what I was saying. Like, we would have to purge our criminal justice system first before capital punishment could ever be treated ethically in this country. Hence why, yes, a post-capitalist world is what it will require. And one of the ways that that can happen is through activism, through revolution, through protest, through, holding town halls, being out there and marching. That consistency of the 3% over the course of 90 days, that is 100% one way in which we can achieve those goals. Another way, which we'll be talking about, is what Gen Z did in Nepal. Now, sure, some are saying that the Nepalese revolution is less a socialist revolution and based and so on and so forth than it is a religious revolution, which could have negative repercussions. But for the sake of argument, the young people overthrew a corrupt government that was, in fact, trying to silence the First Amendment, free speech, and access to information. They fucked around and found out. So that didn't take 90 days, though. That took, what, I think 30 days? But we'll be covering that. So stay tuned. My exception for the death penalty is fascist serial unalivers and maybe the grapists. The Epstein followers. I think everybody on that list definitely deserves the needle, the noose, or... The Nepalese revolution is here. Hindu Tvas are just trying to co-opt it. Okay, so the Hindu Vastas or Hinduvistas are basically the Democratic Party of Nepal, which makes sense. There's no doubt in my mind that some neoliberal organization would in fact try to co-opt it. Where are we with clipping it? Anna's been quiet. Are you trying to figure out how to clip? Because I don't know how to clip either. And I don't know if you can rewind the stream to the point that needed to be clipped. So if anybody can figure that out, that would be very helpful. So yes, I did want to cover Charlie Kirk. I think we did. We will cover more of it tomorrow, which is the recap Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. Where I will probably be repeating myself. And I think we're pretty much going to be sticking to this flaming background because clearly society is on fire. And our country is the thing that is burning. Yeah, see, but the thing is, violent consequences don't actually deter the rapists or murderers because the death penalty already exists. 20 years to life already exists. Punishment is not a deterrent, right? Societal norms are what are a deterrent, right? If you have a society where men are nurtured and raised to value women, and where society values women as people, as living, breathing, sentient beings instead of things and objects and sexual whatever have yous, you will dramatically reduce the amount of rape because people wouldn't be even consider the thought of rape. It's just like cannibalism isn't a problem in any society because cannibalism is so unconscionable, so unthinkable that those few who do it are immediately written off from society. Like, there is no coming back from that. You're a cannibal. You are ostracized from society. You are written off. The day we achieve rapism, pedophilia, any sort of... all of these violent crimes, once all these violent crimes are accepted by society as just as unthinkable as cannibalism, is when we can finally move forward as a people. But violent consequences won't do it. We could cut off their arms, their legs, and castrate them, rip out their tongues and their eyes, and leave them as a corpse with a feeding tube, and that's still not going to deter people from murdering or raping. All that's going to do is deter them from getting caught. I think it can only be clipped after the stream is done. I will ask Cody to do it. Okay, we can certainly do that then. reform society. Well, we can't abolish prisons outright. Not yet. That's part of the thing. As much as we want a utopian society, you can't go from A to C. It's more like A to Z. So there will come a point where prisons are no longer necessary, like they aren't necessary in Finland and Sweden, because crime is so low, they can finally start shutting them down. That's what we need to do. We need to facilitate a society that reduces the amount of crime that is committed out of desperation and starvation and distress, right? So we can start lessening the prison population down to the point where we don't need them anymore. But, to your point, that is a goal. Prisons and being abolished is 100% a goal. Oh, I guess that is a different topic. I didn't realize Japan let cannibals go free. No, we are definitely going the opposite way. We are definitely going the opposite way. The laws around cannibalism mostly are desecration of a corpse. That's a little, True, Japanese prisons are more focused on rehabilitation, and that is something like my Anna. Can you paste my prison reform policy? Because my prison reform policy is centered around rehabilitation and reintegration into society. But the point is, we're going to need prisons until the rest of the foundations of society can be repaired. So, I think we can get started. Why is the SEAL team the first thing that's on our... Okay, so we got that, the Flotilla drone attack. Israel attacking Qatar now, of course. Al Jazeera, I'm beginning to doubt their veracity and being able to report things without supporting the agenda of the tyrant, but okay. So these are a lot about Qatar. So we're going to be covering a lot of Qatar. Of course, Netanyahu's nonsense. Anti-Islamic biker gang. Great, that's more what we need. We need more anti-Islamic violence. Spain's PM, Sanchez announces sanctions. That's great. Nepal's PM. See, I told you we're going to talk about Nepal. And then the more on the Venezuela strike and how our government is complicit in the war crimes. So we definitely have a lot to cover. Imagine if low-level drug offenders were released from prison today. The economy would see a huge boost tomorrow. Not necessarily, because those people would not have housing, and they wouldn't have immediate access to jobs either. Which is why My America Works program and Universal Housing program would dramatically impact those kinds of initiatives. Yeah. Anna's new boyfriend, the Prime Minister of Spain, Prime Minister Sanchez. Yeah, the EU is beginning to finally ramp up against Israel, which is nice. No, that's exactly the point of the housing policy, is to reclaim all residential property that is especially owned by corporations or not currently filled with residents, and then put homeless folks in there, and of course the repatriated prisoners. Don't tell Sanchez's wife. Aren't Spanish? Isn't Spanish culture more open to polygamy anyway? You can be a second or third wife. All right.
Style starts with the details. The difference between mid and next level.
Let's get started with the real content here. I don't know if I'm hungry, or if I'm thirsty, or if I'm like just so... I don't know. I'm riled up right now, and I don't know what's going on with my insides. So let me take a shot of honey and see if that works. Honey is really good, especially when it's not crystallized. It actually flows nicely. There we go. All right. Let's do this thing.
Welcome back to The Takeout. It takes quite a bit to stun me. This article from the New York Times did. It reveals a...
So, a failed SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea that resulted in deaths of civilians? Why the fuck are we invading North Korea? First of all, I thought this regime was friendly with North Korea. Why the fuck are we invading North Korea? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Failed U.S. military operation in North Korea and a series of mistakes and shortcomings that led to the deaths, it reports, of unarmed civilians as part of this mission.
Jesus
Piece
Christ.
titled, How a Top Secret SEAL Team 6 Mission into North Korea Fell Apart. That article, we learn about this Operation 2019, greenlit by President Trump, but hidden for years from Congress and the public.
Oh, so this was 2019. This wasn't
New York
recently.
Times national correspondent and
Okay.
co-author of this article, Dave Phillips, joins me now.
Well, this is
Dave,
old
I know
news
it's difficult to summarize everything, but give my audience, if you could, the top lines of what this mission was intended to do and how, bit by bit, it fell apart.
Sure. The goal was to plant a newly developed listening device, basically a bug, on the shore in North Korea. And the way that the United States
I'm
was
going to
going
get fat
do
from
that
all of this stress eating. All right, give me a second here. I forgot to turn on closed captions here because it's like every other one of these videos is so shittily created with their audio, you can't understand what the fuck is
by
going on.
sneaking a nuclear-powered sub right up to the coast and then deploying 2 small mini-subs packed with a small team of Navy SEALs. Those Navy SEALs would go to the beach, go on shore, and plant the bug. But when they got to the shore, which they thought was going to be empty because it was the dead of winter and the dead of night, they encountered an unexpected boat. And not knowing whether it was a security patrol or whether they'd been spotted, they opened fire and they killed everyone on that boat.
What
Nice.
kind of
War
listening
crimes.
device, if you know?
Literally war crimes. Here's the thing. Notice how I'm in uniform. Son of a bitch. Notice how I'm in uniform. How this literally says United States Air Force. That these are actual Air Force stripes. Notice how I'm about to talk about the military rules of engagement, law of armed conflict, and the Geneva Conventions. Because I had to learn about it as an airman in the active duty Air Force. Yes, special forces have a few more liberties when they're on mission. But according to the law, if you cannot verify your target, right? They're not lawful targets. The only lawful targets are military personnel. Civilians are never lawful targets. Never. Never. They are never lawful targets. Well, Mr. President, Mr. Airman, Mr. Staff Sergeant, if civilians are never lawful targets, then why can prime ministers and political folks get assassinated by military people, huh? How can they do that? Because leadership is a lawful target. Those are 100% lawful targets, as are industrial leaders. Yeah. Yep, that is 100% true. If they can contribute to the functioning of the country, specifically the military, but more broadly speaking, the country, and its infrastructure or its functionality, you can target dams, you can target power grids, you can target rail systems, ports, you can target research centers, military bases, of course, political buildings like courthouses and stuff like that. You're not actually allowed to attack prisons, though, because, again, civilians, which, again, Israel has done, by the way. They attacked an Iranian prison, which is a war crime. So are schools and universities, right? Attacking non-lawful targets is a war crime. So by SEAL Team 6 going in this, undercover, dead of night, in the winter mission and not verifying that those were civilians first, just murdering them outright, that was the war crime. Now, sure, if they had gotten spotted and it was running the alarm, then that SEAL Team 6 might have risked getting caught, captured, killed, whatever have you, and that would be bad. Very sad, yes. But you're also invading a foreign country illegally. And by the way, Here's a fun fact. Did you know the Korean War has actually not ended? The Korean War is still ongoing. This is a truce. A ceasefire. There is a ceasefire between North and South Korea. But they have never actually put an end to the war. Hence, North and South Korea. Hence, all of the tension in the no man's zone. Because if there wasn't a war or a ceasefire or whatever have you, there could be free trade. Right? So, America violated the ceasefire by sending troops into North Korea and then committed a war crime by killing civilians before confirming whether or not they were civilians. Now, to continue on with the, for fuck's sake, I fucking hate this software, but OBS is even worse. So, like, I don't know what other streaming software is out there, but this is pissing me off.
Or can explain was involved. Something, I imagine, larger than a bug that would fit inside a telephone. I'm being slightly facetious, but I'm trying to get a visual picture, if possible.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot that we've intentionally withheld from this story because there are things that the United States may need to use again that we don't want to say too much about. But I can tell you that the goal was, this was in 2019, right in the middle of high-level talks between Kim Jong-un and President Trump about denuclearization. And so the goal was to find out what the thinking of this, you know, really...
This absolute fucking clown ordered a military incursion on a country that he was in the middle of negotiations with. Wars have been declared for significantly less than that. Also, why would you use ground personnel to accomplish that? Second of all, we have satellites that can read your phone from your fucking hand. Like, if I was reading 1984 outside under the clear blue sky and I was on chapter 1 on page 166 of 1984, that satellite would be able to read ignorance is strength throughout recorded time, and probably since the end of the Neolithic age, there have been 3 kinds of people in the world: the high, the middle, and the low. They'd be able to read that line from space. So there was no fucking need to send the SEALs into that whatsoever. You could just focus your spy satellites on North Korea and literally do passes over North Korea and canvass North Korea from space and have a shit ton of analysts going over the footage to verify and validate. Like, or you could just use drones. Again, North Korea has extremely outdated military equipment. And we have stealth fighters. We have stealth drones. We have the AWACS, which is, again, a mobile satellite that flies like 80,000 feet in the sky and can take pictures like the nose hairs. So this is even more dumb the more this goes on.
This guy that we didn't know much about, who had nuclear weapons, what he was going to do and what he was talking about with his officials. And so they wanted to listen in.
And President Trump, as I read the article, approved this right up until the last moment, correct?
Yeah, that's right. With any mission that is this risky, I mean, if you think about the risk involved here, yes, there's a potential gain. You might learn what your adversary is talking about and thinking, but there's a potential risk. You put SEALs on the ground and someone could get captured, someone could get wounded, and that could cause a hostage situation, or it could cause, elevating hostilities that, down the road might lead to nuclear war. So that has to be signed off at the very highest levels. And he gave the final green light go ahead right before the nuclear power sub slipped under the ocean.
And what went wrong as they have looked back at...
I can't even right now. I literally cannot fucking even right now. I am unable to... Again, this piece of shit that is besmirching my office is the most incompetent piece of carbon on the planet in committing war crimes in his previous administration and the current one. It is public knowledge now, and it is being more and more revealed now. And it is on the news every single fucking day. He has his goddamn vice president saying, I don't give a fuck what you call it, when we literally committed a war crime by not verifying who was on the boat before bombing it into non-existence. Because, again, as I have just said, the only lawful targets are military personnel. Criminals is a bit of a gray area. It's a bit of a gray area because the Geneva Conventions mostly covers war and crimes against humanity. Criminal and especially organized criminal elements tends to fall more under the traditional, if you will, elements of a lawful target, like military in the sense, because the cartels, they all stick together. They might not have uniforms, they might not have codes, but they do stick together, and they have that affiliation. So it's a gray area. So if they attacked cartel members, you can still label cartel members as terrorists, which are in fact legal targets. So very gray, very iffy, very shaky grounds. However, because it's so shaky, iffy, and gray, you have to verify. And they didn't. And this administration is bragging openly, but I don't give a fuck if we did or didn't. We got those motherfuckers, and we're going to put it into 4K. How the fuck is Il Duce still in my office? My office. He should be in chains, being sent to The Hague, or having gallows erected across the various major cities, and having his administration and supporters, his enablers, let's be clear. I'm not talking about just regular MAGA voters. I'm talking about his enablers, the judges, the lawyers, the business people, the legislators, and the executives that have made it possible for him to do what he does. And they all need to be charged with treason, crimes against humanity, war crimes, aiding and abetting genocide, violating international law, federal law, and the Constitution, and then put to death. I wish Sam had a fraction of the audience that Hassan does. Me too. A fraction would be great. A single-digit percentage of what he has would be fantastic. He has 150,000 viewers right now. If I even had 1,500, woo! I could do a lot with that. But hey, you know what? We're not Hassan yet. That's fine. I'm not 6'4". I'm not 225. I'm not muscular sitting in a bathtub. My uncle isn't a multimillionaire with the largest independent news network and the first independent news network that was ever created, and gave me a job that exposed me to millions of people in the first place so I could then start my offshoot career as a correspondent with my own name and likeness. Must be nice. I'm just some schmuck enlisted fucker who's gonna be president one day. Let's see. Kim Jong-un's sister. Yeah, Yoo Jun or something like that. Yeah, she's crazy. She's actually crazy. She's cute. Is she actually a killer, or is that just Western propaganda? No. Like, if you watched A Kami Ga Kill, I believe it is, Lady Esdeath makes Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Jong-un's sister makes Lady Esdeath seem like a calm, sweet, innocent child in comparison. Like, she is bloodthirsty. She literally said people who pissed her off, her brother demoted her because she was out of control. Like, and remember, the Kims are considered royalty, like emperor level, like Genghis Khan levels of royalty, and elevates their family always. And Kim Jong-un had to demote her because she was out of control. Like, that's how bad. Like, think Azula. Think Azula, okay, of the Fire Nation. Give her a Snickers. Yeah, I don't know that a Snickers would chill her out, but you know. That is my office. Duterte is at The Hague. Why isn't Trump? And Bukele and Bibi. Very good questions. That's right. And I'm already in uniform. I threaten people with The Hague so much now that I actually understand what it is. Fair enough. Maybe I need a thirst trap more. Well, I'm trying to get into better shape, and this is tight on me. So maybe once I can fill out the chest a little bit more, you know? Or maybe I'll stuff the jacket. He usually has about 30K, but he's discussing Charlie's death today, so it's a good day for Hassan. Yeah. Oh, he dropped 3K viewers. Hey, 3,000 Hassan viewers, come to me. We'll talk shit about the government, too. We know he's a Nepo nephew, but we still like him. I'm just saying. I'm just calling it what it is. Get him to do a bareback horse photo shoot? What's wrong with you? I may as well chop wood at that point. Orientalist? The Kims are just a political dynasty like any other, not emperors. I'm sorry. Emperor, czar, dynasty. It's all the same fucking thing. Wow, Anna. Honestly, though, if you would be the face of the movement, you're pretty enough to capture people's attention, and if you wear cleavage-inducing outfits, you would have way more viewership than I would. So, like, you know, maybe you should get on that. Just throwing that out there, since you're going to be all unhinged anyway in chat. All right. So, we gotta find a way to convince Hassan's group to come over to our group. We have fun here. We got cigars. We got prop rifles, and we have binge eating from stress because shit is bananas. All right, but I think that's all we really need to cover on Trump's misadventures of being a leader. We definitely want to know about this.
They don't
though.
believe how toxic
we
this
want to know
is.
as much as we can.
If you're
find
still
out
using a
about
plastic or wooden
attack.
cutting board, you need.
The family boat has been officially attacked. A drone came right above it, released a bomb, and it exploded, and the boat was on fire.
We've been hit.
It attacked the main vessel. Okay.
We've been hit by what appears to be a drone.
Oh, that okay. Hold on. I thought it was in the middle of the sea, so maybe there weren't
By
fatalities.
what appears to be a drone. Go. It's okay.
That's awesome. Okay. The good news is the flotilla was attacked, but there were no fatalities and there were no casualties. That's outstanding news. But the problem is Israel is attacking civilian vessels, which is a war crime because, again, it is never okay to attack civilians.
We just got hit. The vessel is on fire. Our vessel, we've been hit by what appears to be a drone. The vessel's on fire.
So wait, Tunisia said that it was just a fire and not an attack? What the fuck, Tunisia?
I got out of the cover, saw a drone hovering about 4 meters above my head, called someone. We just started it for a few seconds, and then we saw it move slowly all the way to the forward deck where we're standing right now. Dropped the bomb, or whatever it was, an incendiary device, on a pile of life jackets, and there was a huge flame that was,
Yeah, so this was very clearly a deliberate act by Israel to not kill, thank God. Let's be very clear. Thank God that Israel did not murder these people. But this was very clearly a deterring attack. Like, if you continue to sail towards the blockade in Palestine, we will attack you. And we will commit more war crimes and more human rights violations because we're already in so deep and the world doesn't give a shit. Who fucking cares? So yeah, that's pretty fucking
beyond the railings of the ship.
Burayı vurdular. Ne bu abi?
Five months ago, our boat, the Conscious, was attacked pretty much the same way, and we all know by who. We cannot attest from which is the owner of this drone. We cannot attest where it came from, but we know who used quadcopter drones with explosive devices and who really hates the idea of a humanitarian mission try to stop children from starving to death in Gaza.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, shit! Francesca Albanese was there. Somebody send it. We need Francesca. Redemption. Let's go. Because, well, also, what was she doing at the port? Like, that is some very keen timing. I guess you always know where the port's gonna be, so, or where the flotilla's gonna, swing by. Alright, I'll redeem it then. I'm American? Is there a delay? Like, is there a 20-second delay or something? Because I said stuff, and sometimes it seems like chat is, like, immediately following me. And then other times, it feels like there's, like, a huge delay after I say the thing. That's weird. Okay. I guess I'll have to get used to that then. Anyway, Our Lady, Francesca Albanese, was there, which is awesome. I wonder if she has anything to say about this. And as for my ethnicity, Anna loves to say that I have a uniquely ambiguous ethnicity. A very ambiguous ethnic appearance. So maybe there is some Italiano in there somewhere, but for the most part, I am German and Filipino, and I did do the 23andMe way back in the day to verify it. So, for all intents and purposes, I'm primarily German.
Of course, it will have to be verified.
All right, hold on. Francesca is speaking.
Of course, it will have to be verified. But there is a history of attacks on the flotilla. There are current statements against the flotilla, threatening the flotilla, of course, from Israel, but there is no other state currently protecting this boat other than Tunisia creating a safe port.
We will find out. All right, hold on. You're still caught up on this 23andMe. It was like 79% German and 19% Filipino, which is what? Like 2% of everything else. Like, it is, if I have any Italian whatsoever, which I don't have it in front of me anymore, and I can't even log into it anymore, the Italian in me would be less than 1%, if I had any at all.
If they can do this here to a non-violent, humanitarian, peaceful mission, they can do anything, anywhere. So we need to stop this horrific threat to the entire world.
Guys,
and that is the main point that I wanted to cover here. So the good news is that they are still moving forward, and that's exactly what we need. You can see something in the eyes. What, my cold, dead, violent, malevolent eyes of darkness and violence? Because let me tell you something. I am not the tolerant left. I am not the tree-hugging left. I am not the peace and love left. I am the I will burn you into the ground ashes and sprinkle them across the fields to sow our fields for food, water, and shelter of the masses left. I will burn down your temples and your high powers, your places of strength and authority, your idols and your implements. I shall destroy them all. I will wreak upon them such havoc as to have reverberations throughout history. That is the level of left I am. Let me be further clear on this. I might be a white male who's a veteran, right? I might be a white male cis veteran. The pinnacle of patriarchy in America and perhaps even in Western society. But I can tell you one thing for certain. I am the collective wrath, rage, anger, suffering, pain, and sorrow of the working class, of the disparaged minorities, right? There's a whole speech I could give right now, but I'd prefer giving it to a broader audience, like in person, because I want people to truly understand that the pain that you feel, the pain that you endure and that you suffer is the same pain that I feel. Your pain and suffering is my pain and suffering. And that should be the only message that is carried out to the masses. That is the only message that should matter. And it is the reason why I am so adamant about pursuing a career in politics, sitting in this office, and holding these monsters accountable. Because I don't want to feel that pain. I don't want to feel that suffering. I most certainly don't want to bear witness to it. And I do want to put an end to it. And I will use my privilege, my power, my authority, and my means to put an end to it. So, whatever my demographics may be, I will embrace any demographic if it means I can help that many more people have their voices be heard. So my ambiguous ethnic background, I embrace it wholeheartedly. I do tan well, after I went off on my little tangent there. I like guessing the white people ethnicities. I'll call you mixed, though, because you're not just white. I get it. You're oppressed and have empathy. I didn't mean to offend you, bro. Me neither. Now, quieta la boca. You're making me feel bad. Sorry for poking at your ethnicity too much. You're not poking at my ethnicity. You're poking at the starving, stressed, tearful, oppressed masses who are being attacked and reviled and othered by society. So, that is a very good video, though, for discussing what happened in the flotilla. So, let's cover Qatar next.
Want restaurant quality meals that actually support your wellness goals? Factor's got you covered.
How do you shape your strategy with confidence? We advised a consumer
price for crossing them, and it's unlikely to pay a price anytime soon.
I've got to just interrupt because we have this news conference taking place in the Ministry of Finance. We can get over and have a listen to what the Foreign Minister is at the moment saying, or his spokesman. And here you go, Majid Al-Ansari there.
Seen as terrorism. This has targeted the headquarters or the political office of Hamas during the negotiations. The security forces and civil defense went directly under the directives of His Highness the Emir to address the situation that happened, the attack that took place on 3:46 p.m. and taking care of all those who died or were injured during this attack. We also took all the measures in order to contain the situation. In this regard, we present and express our sincere condolences to the martyr Saad al-Dusri, who died during his while he was carrying out his duties in this event. We also pray that all those who died or has been killed will be in the paradise. The state of Qatar is committed to act in a decisive way with anything that would.
Okay. This is an actual, news reel. So, the long and short of it is, the government of Palestine is Hamas. It is. But there's a military group that is also Hamas, but they're considered terrorists, while the Hamas that's in political power are not considered terrorists, but are now being targeted anyway. Qatar was giving them safe haven, because otherwise there's no way to actually enter into negotiations with the state of Israel to stop the genocide if there isn't another side in those negotiations, which is Hamas, which is the representation of Palestine. And Israel tried to kill the Hamas leaders, the political leaders, that were being held in Qatar so that those negotiations could be brought to an abrupt close. And that's what they're discussing, how that didn't happen, and that the people have survived, and condemning, the bullshit from Israel. Now, let's see if there's a...
This is the moment when Israel struck a residential area full of schools and embassies in Qatar.
Again, Israel attacked a residential area. What have we said 1,000 times in this stream already? You cannot attack civilians, ever, under any circumstances. Ever. It is a war crime. Always. Always. It doesn't matter if the enemy head of state and of the military and their mothers are in your living room. It would still be illegal for another country to kill you to get to them. Period.
The country is a U.S. ally and a mediator for peace, but was hit in an assassination attempt by Israel on Hamas leaders. The Palestinian resistance group's delegation gathered to discuss the latest ceasefire proposal from the Trump administration. A member of Hamas's political bureau told Al Jazeera that the leadership of the group survived the cowardly assassination attempt. Chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya's son and his office manager are among the dead. He also reiterated that Hamas was meeting with a positive outlook on the American ceasefire proposal. He said the group holds the American administration responsible for the attack.
Praise be to God, the leadership of the movement has survived this cowardly attempt, and the leadership is now safe and secure, while at the same time stressing that the blood of the leadership is no different from the blood of any Palestinian child, woman or man, sacrificed for their homeland and for this cause.
And that's, again, I cannot stress this enough. Israel is trying to play both sides. Well, we got to kill the Hamas terrorists, but we got to keep the Hamas government in place, but we need to kill them, especially when they're in U.S. allied territories. Otherwise, this thing will continue. When Palestine has already offered to give up, Hamas has already offered to give up all of the hostages and dismantle their government and their organization, so long as Israel stops the genocide, and Israel refuses to do that. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Israel wants the genocide to continue and will drag it out for as long as it is able. And we have the power to put an end to it. We collectively as citizens, or we collectively as a country, have the ability to put an end to Israel's genocide now.
The Qatari Foreign Ministry condemned what it calls the cowardly Israeli attack, targeting a residential building of Hamas's political bureau. Qatar views it as a flagrant violation of its sovereignty and international law. Israel's attack killed a member of the internal security force at the targeted site, and a number of security personnel were also injured. There's been mounting international condemnation after the Israeli strike. Saudi Arabia said the strikes were a brutal Israeli aggression and a flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty, with dire consequences for regional stability. Turkey's foreign ministry said that targeting the Hamas negotiating team in Doha proves Israel seeks war, not peace, and shows its expansionist policies. Palestinian Authority Vice President Hussein al-Sheikh wrote that the airstrikes were a serious violation of international law and the sovereignty of the state of Qatar. Jordan's foreign ministry said the bombings a flagrant violation of the UN Charter and a dangerous escalation threatening international peace. The US State Department says Israel...
We're going to have World War III because all of Europe, including all of Europe and the United States refuses to put a stop to Israel's unchecked aggression in the region. Because, and I cannot stress this enough, Europe and America think they're bringing in the end times. The leadership of Europe and America think that if Israel conquers the Middle East, it'll usher in revelations in the Bible. The end times. Armageddon. The apocalypse. Like, I'm not making that up. That isn't hyperbole. That isn't conspiracy theory that I'm just plucking out to gain viewership and come off as, interesting and quirky. That is literally verbatim what has came out of the mouths of American politicians, including Trump, Vance, and several others in the cabinet. I think, I want to say Kristi Noem was one of them as well. Point being, these people in power are religious zealots. Religious zealots, like Dark Ages zealotry. And they think that Israel's genocide of Palestinians will somehow usher in the end times, which will cause the faithful to be raptured into heaven. There is no reasoning with that ideology. There is none. The only thing you can do to counter that ideology is to put a swift and brutal end to it. And whether that means imprisonment, whether that means revolution, whether that means execution, whether that means sending them to the Hague or sending them to the gallows locally, you cannot allow religious zealotry to run amok, because it is no different than fascism or letting capitalism run amok, right? If you don't put any brakes on these zealots, they will make the world burn, as we are seeing. There is not enough blood, there is not enough violence or death or slaughter or destruction or amount of aggression that will ever satisfy Israel. And there's no amount of blood, slaughter, death, and destruction that'll satisfy the United States of America in aiding and abetting Israel or trying to subjugate our neighbors. Because there is no end. There is only ever consumption. There is only ever the more. And unless that is put to an end, these flames are not just for visual effect. We will literally be witnessing World War III, Civil War 2.0, and God knows what else. So that is what is being discussed in that video, with all of these Middle Eastern countries saying, like, this unchecked, unprecedented aggression can only ever lead to instability, war, and more aggression between the nations. And it's not being checked at all by Europe or America, who are supplying the weapons to Israel in the first place. And you also don't bomb someone you're trying to negotiate with. Although, Trump tried, sending the SEALs into North Korea while negotiating with Kim Jong-un. So, two peas in a pod, apparently. Hey, bro, so they can hang out with their real pal, Jesus. Welcome to the stream, True Steel. But yes. 1,000 times yes. What else do they got for this video? Oh, it's almost over.
Gave prior warning of the attack.
This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar.
So, let's listen to that again, because I don't think we got the full effect.
Israel gave prior warning of the attack.
This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
In the heart,
I'm actually mildly impressed with that statement. For one, she did admit that this administration found out before the attack happened, did nothing about it, and then also further stated that the attack was happening in a civilian center with an American ally in the midst of negotiations. So at the very least, this regime is finally at least offering lip service to the fact that what Israel is doing is illegal and wrong and counter to international law and is beginning to violate America's agenda, whatever that agenda is in that yellow toupee of his. But regardless, there's beginning to show some signs of a schism between Israel and this regime, which is long overdue, to say the least.
Of Doha, around residential areas and schools, this strike leaves a question mark. Who knew what and at what point? And if Israel continues to kill the people who are negotiating, how is Qatar supposed to continue with its efforts of negotiating between two sides? Sama Majaved, Al Jazeera, Doha.
Let's play it again.
Question mark. Who knew what and at what point? And if Israel continues to kill the people who are negotiating, how is Qatar supposed to continue with its efforts of negotiating between two sides?
And that's the fucking rub, isn't it? How is Qatar or any country supposed to engage in good faith negotiations with Israel, between Israel and Palestinian representation, if Israel's going to turn around and attack the negotiators? That's not how that works. In fact, that's a war crime. Shooting the messenger, killing the messenger. That has been a crime in war. Dishonorable action. Dishonor on you, your cow, and your family since war. That has literally, you can take that all the way back to ancient fucking Mesopotamia and Assyria and Sumeria. You do not attack in the midst of negotiations, because even if you win that preceding battle, if you lose the war, you will be dishonorably executed. And your entire society just stripped. And for Israel being such an ancient nation, you would think they would fucking know that. All right, let's do this video.
So you think you know Wix, but do you really?
Also, if your website is on Wix, and you didn't know this already, Wix is owned by Israel. It is a Tel Aviv Israeli company, or headquartered in Tel Aviv, Israel. So if you're like me and didn't know that at the time, but your whatever is running out that you paid for with Wix, try switching to some other web hosting service. Unfortunately, if you've already built your website to work on Wix and you try and move it to something like Squarespace or GoDaddy, it's not going to work that well because CSS does not transfer, unfortunately. Domains do, not necessarily the website infrastructure. So, just to let everybody know, Wix is Israeli. They are 100% the fucking enemy.
Growing after its attack on the political leaders of Hamas right here in Doha. The attack killed 5 members of the group and a Qatari security services worker, but not the Hamas targets. Now, leaders from neighboring Gulf countries are visiting Doha in a show of support after the attack. Although US President Donald Trump says he is very unhappy about the attack, he stopped short of condemning it. He said he'll give a full statement later on Wednesday. Right, well, let's speak to Osama bin Javed, who's also live for us here in the capital, Doha. Osama, so you did go to the scene yesterday of that attack. Since then, we've had some very strong words from Qatar about this happening on its own soil, but also a show of solidarity from some of the neighboring countries.
Absolutely, Sarah. So not surprising, an unequivocal, strong statement from the Prime Minister of Qatar, calling this state terrorism by the State of Israel, calling this a treacherous act and saying that this is against all international norms. That is something that
I noticed that too.
And has been
I was gonna
echoed
let
by
that
world
slide.
leaders all over the world, not just from the Western Hemisphere, but from regional countries as well. There's a long list of leaders who've spoken to the Qatari Emir since the incident, and now some of them have started to arrive in Doha. We've just seen a visit concluded by the President of the United Arab Emirates. We're expecting the Crown Prince of Jordan sometime later today, and it is expected that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, will also be...
All right, I gotta say something, and it might be culturally insensitive, but I've always found it interesting that the uniforms and official dress and attire of some of these Middle Eastern countries are always like pristine white. I understand why it's white. It reflects the sun. You're in the desert. But like, they are always ridiculously clean. There is no fucking way I could wear anything that is that pristinely white and not get it dirty in some way. Like, they're walking on stairs. They're sitting down. Not a scuff or smudge of dirt. Like, I am truly impressed that they managed to pull that off.
Arriving towards Doha sometime tomorrow. So it just feels that all of these states, which were talking about normalization with Israel just a few months ago, just over 2 years ago, are now looking at this as an attack on one of their closest allies, neighbors, and partners. This attack in the Gulf Cooperation Council has sent reverberations across the region. And Qataris have been quite insistent that it is not going to be a response that comes from Qatar itself, but it's going to be a regional response. There's a committee that has been formed looking at all legal aspects of how and why, how Qatar is going to take Israel to the international arena and figure out exactly how it is going to respond. And the Qatari Prime Minister has said that Qatar reserves the right to respond. As you mentioned about...
Well, that's the thing too, right? Like, Israel continues to violate international sovereignty, international law, international rights, the whole 9 yards, right? They're just looking at the United Nations and giving it the middle finger. And every time a country complains about Israel, America steps in to veto whatever action would have been taken. And that's the fucking problem. Can't these countries band together outside of the United Nations to then separately or individually pass sanctions against Israel or condemn Israel's actions, cut off trade, or some other activity? Like, am I missing something? The United Nations is not the only way a country can take action against another country. Pretty fucking certain on that front.
The location, it is being treated as a crime scene, as what the Qataris have been calling it, a violation, flagrant violation of international law and norms. And just to give you context of that area, it is a residential part of Qatar. Lots of diplomatic activities happen there because there's embassies, diplomatic staff live there, but it is also home to thousands of people who pick and drop their children from those schools nearby. This is the moment when Israel struck a residential area full of schools and embassies in Qatar. The country is a US ally and a mediator for peace, but was hit in an assassination attempt by Israel on Hamas leaders. The Palestinian resistance group's delegation gathered to discuss the latest ceasefire proposal from the Trump administration. A member of Hamas's political bureau told Al Jazeera that the leadership of the group survived the cowardly assassination attempt. Chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya's son and his office manager are among the dead. He also reiterated that Hamas was meeting with a positive outlook on the American ceasefire proposal. He said the group holds the American administration responsible for the attack.
Wow. So Hamas is actually blaming the United States, not Israel. That's interesting. Let's find out more about that. It is unfortunate that members of the delegation did die, though. That I was hoping that there weren't casualties. Sure, destruction, this, that, and the other. That's fine. That's material damage. But it is definitely unfortunate that part of the negotiation delegation did have fatalities.
Praise be to God, the leadership of the movement has survived this cowardly attempt, and the leadership is now safe and secure, while at the same time stressing that the blood of the leadership is no different from the blood of any Palestinian child, woman or man sacrificed for their homeland and for this cause.
The Qatari Foreign Ministry condemned what it calls the cowardly Israeli attack.
Okay, well, I don't know that we just want to sift through. I mean, I thought maybe they would talk a little bit more on the why are they blaming America, but it looks like they're just going over the end effect. So, Israel orders full Gaza City evacuation as Palestinians are, whatever else. What I don't understand is, where are Palestinians supposed to go at this point?
Feed your whole crew with a big
evacuation as Palestinians are forcibly displaced to Al-Mawasi.
Join Planet Fitness today.
Is Al-Mawasi
just $1
even,
down,
I haven't heard of that place in the news yet.
Offer ends September 12th.
What
More
is
Palestinians
this?
are fleeing southward after the Israeli military Tuesday for the first time ordered the full evacuation of Gaza City. There's a stream of people making nearly the 30-kilometer journey south using the coastal Al-Rashid Street. While some Palestinians refuse to be forcibly displaced again, others see little option but to flee again. They're heading for Al-Mawasi, a barren strip of land on the Mediterranean coast that's been repeatedly bombed. Our correspondent Tariq Abu Azoum reports on conditions in Al-Mawasi in the southwestern part of the strip.
The Israeli ground operation...
What are they going to do? Displace the Gazans into the ocean? Because, what? It's not enough to just massacre people at Gaza City. Now you have to destroy whatever's left of it and push it down. Now they're going to a barren stretch of beach? Again, where does Israel get off doing any of this shit? And why is nobody stepping in?
The mass evacuation orders that were issued by the Israeli military have really shrunk the space of Gaza available for safe habitation. These are makeshift tents. Families are trying to set up very close to the Israeli attacks. This is an area where the Israeli military is operating at the moment. There has been a huge explosion took place just a few minutes ago where there is a huge black smoke just coming from that destroyed side. We can see on the horizon how it's very destructive scene, and we can see at the other end families are still turning up to this site, trying to bring the mattresses, what they can really carry from areas of displacement. He says that the situation is quite desperate. This is one of the testimonies that we have just heard from that person. So apparently there is nowhere safe in Gaza. We can see a continuation of Israeli attacks, and civilians amid this great chaos are trying to secure their families by heading to where the Israeli military has told them to seek refuge. But apparently the continuation of the aerial attacks and the very overcrowded spaces that were granted for families are making survival really very difficult. Tariq Abu Azoum, Al Jazeera, from Al Mawasi area, Khan Yunis, Palestine.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. At what point do people collectively... I mean, but that's the problem, isn't it? That's the real problem, is that people aren't seeing this. This is not what's being reported in America, or Germany, or France, or Spain, or Ireland, or Australia, or even Canada. This is not reported. My stream live is not 150,000 people. My live stream recorded on YouTube is not millions of viewers. The Young Turks is maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe a couple million. Same thing with Hassan. The majority of people, the majority of just regular people, normies, people who are not political junkies, people who are not active in international politics, people who do not do anything other than live their lives like this, do not know this. They are not aware. They have not seen nor heard anything about this other than the few clips that do make it into the news that talk about children being starved or murdered, by Israel. Then there's outrage for a few days until Hamas attacks Israel, and all of a sudden it's self-defense again. So I don't know what it will take. I don't know what it is we need to do. I am open to suggestions, but somehow we have to break through this information blackout that is entrenching the United States and Europe, because otherwise, how is public opinion ever going to shift if public doesn't actually know what's going on? And yeah, there are Palestinian, pro-Palestine protests that are happening, but they're being brutally crushed by the governments where they are happening in. And the people that are watching the brutal responses are like, wow, that's a bit excessive, but that's all they see, is that the response is aggressive, and maybe a few of them research, oh wow, this is bad, and then it's a slow trickle. There has to be a way to spread the message broadly, because otherwise we are just going to be sitting here every Wednesday, every Thursday talking about how Israel commits more war crimes, commits more atrocities, displaces more Palestinians, murders and starves more Palestinians, until we finally report the day where the last Palestinian dropped dead in Gaza. And I don't want to be here for that day. I don't want to have to ever be here for that day. I want us to prevent that day from ever happening. But 4 more years of this means at least people are still alive 4 years from now. But this is going to be the most drug out, extended, and preventable genocide and willful starvation of a population when the entire world just sat by and did nothing. And we can't have that. We literally cannot have that. And now we have Netanyahu saying this is only the fucking beginning.
Grainger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on,
how are we even able to pretend that this isn't what it is?
Where does the United States relationship with Israel stand after Israel tried to obliterate Hamas's negotiating team inside the bustling capital city of Doha, Qatar, while working on U.S.-backed efforts to end the war in Gaza? President Trump said this afternoon he feels, quote, very badly that the strike happened in the city of Doha. He noted
he was informed before it happened. He could have told Israel, no, stop, don't do that. This motherfucker feels bad that it happened. He knew. And these pieces of shit are not fucking reporting it. Again, complicit. This motherfucker gets the gallows just as much as all the other motherfuckers.
Did not make the decision to strike. Qatar has been a key player in the negotiations for a hostage and ceasefire deal, a version of which was accepted by Hamas on August 18th. Israel says the attack involved more than 10 fighter jets and was, quote, months in the making, but was sped up in recent weeks, according to Israeli sources. People in Qatar's biggest city, Doha, ran from the blasts, which targeted housing for several members of the Hamas political bureau. Qatar's prime minister says it was, quote, state terrorism.
Yes.
While Hamas says the strike killed 5 of its members, but did not take out the negotiating delegation. The chief negotiator, Khalil al-Hayya, is still alive, but his son was killed along with a Qatari security official. CNN's Clarissa Ward is in London. Clarissa?
So, Jake, we're learning now, according to the Qataris, that President Trump actually made a phone call to Qatar's emir, expressing, in their words, strong solidarity and also issuing
the audacity of strong solidarity when you fucking knew about the attack and allowed it to happen anyway. Decision not made by me, but it could have been. That's the fucking point. The point is, you didn't stop it, and now you have the temerity to say, oh, this is a tragedy, so sad.
Strong condemnation for this attack on sovereignty of Qatar. He went on to effectively say that Qatar is a strategic, trusted ally, and really urging, Jake, the Qataris to continue this pivotal role that they have been playing for quite some time now in terms of facilitating these talks. There's a little bit of a question mark as to what happens with the talks. We heard earlier from the Prime Minister of Qatar, who is also the Foreign Minister, who was visibly, really, Jake, angry and emotional during this press conference. He was not pulling any punches. He called it state terrorism. He had some choice words also for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling him effectively barbaric. He did say that Qatar will continue its role in the region, but then he also made a comment saying nothing is valid after such an attack. And that's fueling suspicions that at least for on a temporary basis, these talks appear to be dead in the water with all the potential fallout that entails, Jake.
And Clarissa, just before the strike, Israel ordered a full evacuation of Gaza City. Prime Minister Netanyahu says in the past 2 days, Israel has, quote, taken down 50 terrorist high-rises, unquote, there, and warned this is only the beginning. What is Israel's goal for Gaza City?
Well, if you ask Israel, it will say its goal is to completely dismantle and destroy Hamas's capabilities and to bring back the hostages. If you talk to Palestinians or most other people in the region, they will say that this is the continuation of a genocide against the people of Gaza. I think one thing we can say very clearly is that this is not a step towards peace, rather the reverse. An estimated hundreds of thousands, possibly up to 1 million Palestinians who are living in Gaza City in the worst of conditions. This is where a famine has been declared. The leaflets that were handed out by the IDF urging people to go to the...
These reporters are like, well, there's two sides of this. One, the Israeli side, and two, the side of everybody else saying that this is a genocide. And then proceeds to describe all of the conditions that merit the definition of a genocide. Like, your job as a reporter is to call it what it is. And I get that you're bought and paid for as an organization and maybe as an individual by Israeli influence, but the fact that there are so few news organizations that are even willing to call it what it is, and so few people, in fact, one of the only people that I have seen consistently call the genocide a genocide is, in fact, Francesca. And that, to me, is speaks volumes. But we got to the point in this video that covered this. So that's all I really wanted. I thought it was actually going to show Netanyahu say that, but evidently not.
How long before I see results with Tai Chi?
Day 3, you'll feel...
More AI ads. Outstanding.
Has found that the firm providing armed security to guard sites where aid is distributed in Gaza has used members of a US biker gang with a history of hostility to Islam. The BBC's confirmed that members of the Infidels Motorcycle Club work for the private contractor hired by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, often known as the GHF. Well, that is, of course, the aid operation backed by Israel and the United States. The contractor said it didn't screen people for affiliations unrelated to their job performance. The GHF said it had zero tolerance for any hateful biases or conduct. Well, I'm joined in the studio by...
Are you fucking kidding me? The people at the aid stations that were represented by America was actually a racist biker gang? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Andy Verity, who's been working on that investigation. Andy, first of all, just tell us more about this biker gang from the evidence that you gathered.
Yeah, of course, Regina. So they take their name from Infidels Motorcycle Club, English translation of an Arabic word that I think probably isn't used that much by Muslims. The word is kafir, to refer to an unbeliever or a non-Muslim or infidel. So that's where the name comes from. It was set up by US military veterans of the Iraq War back in 2006.
Are you
and
fucking
it's grown rapidly
serious?
since then, hundreds of members. And what's really striking is the iconography of the group. So they have a skull logo, for example, on their website until recently, of the violent Marvel comic book character, Punisher. And that's a symbol which has been appropriated by white supremacist groups. And it's inscribed with the word kafir in
You know
Arabic.
what's nuts about the Punisher, though? Is that the Punisher went out of his way to kill corrupt cops and to kill white supremacist groups. So the fact that they are co-opting him, of all the comic book heroes, and the fact that they're getting away with it is insane. absolutely insane.
Script. Now, some wear tattoos, Crusader cross tattoos, hats.
I don't know how
it's
like, how did Viking iconography get co-opted by racists and Nazis? Because, again, the Vikings were amongst the most tolerant cultures of the Middle Ages. Women actually had rights. The right to divorce, the right to own property, the right to handle finances. They had significantly better rights than most of Europe and probably even the Middle East. So, all of these Viking and comic book iconography that is being co-opted when it has nothing to do with any of what they actually represent by white supremacist and hate groups is insane. Is insane.
1985, which, if you know your history, was the year that Pope Urban II launched the First Crusade, calling all Muslims, quotes, vile race, and urging Europeans to recapture the Holy Land. So it's a sensitive subject that they're playing on. Gang members see themselves as modern crusaders. Many have these crosses on the backs of their biker jackets, or
right.
They're tattooed
Religious
on
zealotry.
their forearms or their shoulders. And we've discovered that they're currently hosting anti-Muslim hate speech on their Facebook site, and also have previously held a pig roast in defiance of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
And how did these bikers get involved in running security for the GHF thousands of miles away?
Well, they're all ex-veterans, and the infidels is mostly ex-veterans, and the attraction was the money. According to our sources and contract documents we've seen, they're paying each of them about $980 a day. That's about £720.
Are you fucking kidding? Do you know what $980 a day is for an 8-hour day? Over $100. Hold on, I did the wrong number there. $122.50 an hour to murder Palestinians who are starving and desperate. And specifically, every single one of these motherfuckers that were hired to get paid $122 from our tax dollars. People who were also veterans. People who literally wore this very same uniform are getting paid over $100 an hour for their racist, bigoted, xenophobic beliefs, knowing full well they're racist and bigoted, and they're all affiliated with the same fucking gang. This was not an accident. This was not a clerical error. This was a deliberate effort by this administration to send a hate group overseas to target a Muslim community that is already being targeted with genocidal intent. The implications of all of that being coincidental are so astronomical that the chances of winning the lottery are as close as me being able to sip this water. So no, there is no coincidence. This is deliberate, and it is yet another crime that can be hung at the feet of this administration. Unbelievable.
Expenses rising to about $1,500 for team leaders. So if they're there all year, they can make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And we've got images of some of the people in this gang. I mean, you identified the names of some of them.
Yes.
How did you then establish that they were working for this agency?
Well, this is interesting because at first we were up against a wall. There was just one member of the gang who we knew about. That was Johnny Taz Mulford. He's a former sergeant in the US Army, and he posted a picture of himself on the gang's page, posing with a machine gun. And then there was another picture with 1095 tattooed across his chest. Now, we emailed Infidels MC for comment, and what happened was, in response, Mr. Mulford instructed his fellow gang members not to reply to the BBC, but forgot to take us off when he hit reply all, thereby disclosing email addresses and names of other members. So we got that. We also spoke to Infidels Insider.
And they're always stupid. All of these organizations, all of these hate groups, to include this regime, are always dumb. Like, how do you not know the most basic infosec or comsec? Like, you never hit reply. Not only are they racist and bigoted, they're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to murder desperate, starving Palestinians who are facing genocide. but then they're also incompetent and stupid on top of that, and disparaging the uniform. This
and we were
just
able
keeps
to
getting
match
with
up
our
names
money.
Public information about Infidels' leadership to arrive at 10 bikers who are from Infidels who are leading the teams in Gaza where people have died. And there have been all kinds of accusations and counter-accusations. Now, UGS, according to estimates by a former contractor, at least 40 bikers are among the 320 people they've hired.
Okay, you talk about this.
Okay, so it's at least not exclusively these bikers.
Solution.
But 43 of the over 200, so that's still 20% of everyone that has been hired to do this is from this one biker gang. Like, that is still not a fucking accident. That is still not an astronomical, oh shit, how did we make this mistake? That there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
What have they said then in response to your investigation, Andy?
UG Solutions, which by the way is a subcontractor for security for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, they gave us a statement saying they don't screen people out for personal hobbies or affiliations unrelated to job performance, and they do carry out background checks, they say, making sure everyone's fully vetted. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says it has a zero tolerance policy for any hateful, discriminatory biases or conduct. And of course you can read more about this on the BBC.
Yeah, evidently not, because they have still yet, I mean, they're still over there. Like, I am fairly fucking certain that they have never been recalled. Despite the whistleblowing, and despite literally the investigation by the BBC revealing that they are a hate group, and that they are publicly a hate group. Like, not even attempting to hide the fact that they are a hate group. So, the fact that America's like, oh yeah, no, we don't tolerate hate group and discriminate, like, bullshit. Bull fucking shit. That's again, the amount of crimes that this administration is committing is breathtaking. Breathtaking.
The structure motorized pergola system is reinvented.
The Prime Minister has accused Israel of exterminating defenseless people in Gaza. Pedro Sanchez has announced a series of measures aimed at pressuring Israel to end the war in Gaza. These include a new law formalizing an arms embargo on Israel and a ban on the transport of fuel and weapons for use by the Israeli army through Spanish ports and airspace.
The data speaks for itself. 63,000 people dead, 159,000 injured, 250,000 people at risk of acute malnutrition, and nearly 2 million people displaced from their homes, half of these underage. This is not self-defense. It is not even an attack. It is the extermination of a defenseless people. It is breaking all the rules of humanitarian law.
I asked our correspondent Nicole Rees in Madrid to tell me more about the measures Mr. Sanchez announced today.
Well, Phil, Spain time and again has shown a very clear stance on the situation, and also a very upfront one, as we could just hear from that soundbite of Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister. During his speech in the beginning, after acknowledging Israel's right to exist, he very quickly went on to the announced measures. It includes a complete permanent embargo on the sales of weapons. Of Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister. During his speech in the beginning, after acknowledging Israel's right to exist, he very...
Come on! Just fucking once! Just fucking once! Could you just not be a bootlicking piece of shit? Just one time. Uno más, per favor. Uno más, per favor. I'll use my hold on, let me prepare my throat here. Uno más, per favor. Don't be a douchebag. Israel has the right to exist, but you're eradicating Palestinians, and we're gonna sanction you. But you have the right to exist. No, the fuck Israel does not. I, Samuel Ronan, President of the United States of America, veteran, citizen, activist, politician, streamer, declare unequivocally the state of Israel has no right to exist because it is a colonizing, occupying force on the lands of Palestine established by European Zionists to disrupt and destabilize the Middle East for religious purposes. So the state of Israel does not deserve to exist. Now, should there be a Jewish state somewhere in the world? Sure, fine, whatever. I don't give a damn. But as far as that goes, if we want to call a country a Jewish state, we already had that. It was the country of Palestine. Palestinians are ethnically Israelites. Ethnically speaking, Palestine is the land of Israel from the Bible. The Israelites are the modern day Palestinians. So there's already a land for the Jewish people. Palestine. We don't need Israel for that to exist. It is already Palestine. Ethnically, culturally, and historically. So no. Unequivocally no. Israel does not have the right to exist. And I apologize to anyone and everyone I ever said in my past discussing a two-state solution and trying to advocate for Israel's right to exist, because in my ignorance, I didn't know the atrocities that Israel had committed throughout Nakba and the years since. I was ignorant to that fact. Very ignorant to that fact. Now, I am disabused of that notion. So, all of which is to say, no. Unequivocally no. Israel does not have the right to exist. They are a colonizing occupation force that is illegally occupying the Palestinian territory, which was offered to fleeing Holocaust survivors for refugee purposes because Palestinians were just that cool. And then the Zionist movement co-opted the Holocaust survivors and started colonizing Palestine with the aiding and abetment of Europe and America. So no, Israel does not have the right to exist at all and should be dissolved. I am very sorry for you, Anna. I really am, because I know you were really excited to do this video. Obviously, your chat suggests as much. I am sorry that he's the scum that we thought he might be. The third way for Asia. Interesting. Welcome. Hold on. What's with this listening only? So wait a second. Now I'm confused. Does listening only mean it didn't show up in chat? Does listening only... No, I'm seeing it in chat. Okay. Anyway, welcome to the stream. It's been a while since we've seen you. But yeah. It's been fucking wild. Definitely been fucking wild. Why can none of these leaders just rip off the fucking Zionist Band-Aid? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Quickly went on to the announced measures. It includes a complete permanent embargo on the sales of weapons to Israel and also a ban on ships that could carry fuel for Israel. They are not allowed to be docking in Spanish ports anymore. And also aircrafts that could carry arms and weapons for Israel are aimed to be banned. This all if an urgent decree is being signed by the cabinet on Tuesday and also passed through Congress. Sanchez also talked about a ban on individual.
I can't even listen to this anymore. Great. Sanchez is doing the right thing while trying to play the both sides card. Like, fuck you, dude. You non-committal coward. let's talk about what's going on in Nepal then, because that was the most disappointing fucking news video that we've watched.
Kept at bay by water cannons. Heavily armed police carrying batons and shields face off with angry demonstrators in the Nepalese capital, Kathmandu. The so-called Gen Z protests were sparked by a decision to ban several social media platforms, including Facebook. Officials say it was necessary.
Kirk is dead. He was shot in the neck during an event at a Utah school where he was disparaging and fomenting more civil unrest and discrimination against minority groups, discussing gun violence. And unironically, he was put to death via gun violence after also going on the record in multiple cases talking about the Second Amendment is justified even with the deaths of the innocent. So he lived and he died the way that he lived. Let's just keep it at that.
Necessary to control hate speech and fake news. But protesters accuse the government of authoritarian conduct and censorship.
All the Nepalese citizens are fed up of corruption. Social media banned by the government. Extremely, it is against our freedom of speech, and they want to control us just like a dictator.
Huge crowds of young people stormed the streets around Parliament.
Yeah, but it's not a loss. Like, if Ben Shapiro fell over dead, or Nick Fuentes fell over dead tomorrow, or Destiny fell over dead tomorrow, the world would be a better place. We don't need debate me bros. What we need is more Nepalese engagement with fascist governments.
With police using rubber bullets and tear gas.
A while ago, the police fired bullets which missed me but hit a friend who was standing behind me. He was hit in the hand. We can still hear the sound of firing.
Injuries were sustained on both sides.
The social media ban has since been lifted, but young people here
clearly I bet it has been lifted.
With their government for their lack of action against tackling corruption and boosting economic opportunities.
The brutal response by authorities further fueling their anger. Meghna Bali, ABC News, Kathmandu.
Well, fuck around and find out. That's the thing, though. If a government makes peaceful protest impossible, violent revolution becomes inevitable. All this government had to do was not be fascist, and their people, which had rioted earlier, wouldn't have rioted to this degree, burning everything down. Which is, I think, what this one's getting. This
Build a
video, I
website
think,
you
explains
love
it a little better.
with Wix. For your words,
Imagine waking up one morning to find every social media app on your phone, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, even WhatsApp, suddenly blocked. Now imagine the entire Gen Z generation hitting the streets in protest. That's exactly what's happening in Nepal. Today, we're breaking down why the government banned social media, and how that decision sparked what many are calling a Gen Z revolution.
Can we, like, not do B-roll for an hour? Can we get into
Users were cut off. By Monday, frustration boiled over. Tens of thousands of young Nepalis poured onto the streets of Kathmandu, chanting slogans, marching towards parliament, and even clashing with police. What began as anger over blocked apps quickly spiraled into Nepal's biggest youth-led protest in years. Demonstrators tried to storm the parliament building, broke through police barricades, and clashed with security forces. By noon on Monday, at least one protester had been killed,
That is not good.
80 others injured, and the army was deployed to secure the capital. Authorities imposed a curfew until 10 p.m. and stationed troops outside the residences of Nepal's president and prime minister.
See, again, the military should never be used to interfere with civilian activities. Just, they shouldn't. So, the fact that so many countries always resort to violence in response to civil unrest proves that those governments shouldn't be in power in the first place, because the only response to civil unrest should be to listen and sit down with the angry people and actually listen to what they have to say. That doesn't necessarily mean capitulate, because if the civil unrest is so that we can build the Death Star or go to war with somebody, you don't want to listen to that. But if the thing is about rights, freedoms, and privileges and, democracy, you absolutely should fucking listen to that. But of course, all of these people that are entrenched in power and drunk on their own self-aggrandizement always resort to violence. Like, no, I am the most important person here. Go fuck yourself. You should listen to me. And that's just not how that is. That's not how that's supposed to be. In this attention economy, the right thing to do is acknowledging it, saying it was wrong, but focus the attention on the school shooting of the innocent kids who did not spew hatred and were killed because of sick adults that sold their souls to the NRA. Can't agree with you more if we're talking about Charlie Kirk in that regard. Which I don't mind talking about Charlie Kirk. Today's Worldwide Wednesdays, though. That said, there's all of this, we need to be peace and love and together and set aside our differences. Somebody was murdered at a rally talking about gun violence and how it's minorities, transgender people, and gang members and illegals that are causing all of the violence and harm in our society, when it is statistically cis men and majority cis white men. So where was the talk of the victims, right? The victims of Sandy Hook, Columbine, and the hundreds of shootings, the thousands of shootings since 2018 alone, right? There's never any mention of that, because the people who do talk about those aren't getting shot at, for one. And for two, those people that are talking about Sandy Hook and all of the 4,000 active shootings that have happened since 2018 are being reviled by the Charlie Kirks and the Ben Shapiros and the Nick Fuenteses and the Trumps and the J.D. Vances, because it doesn't suit their agenda that the actual perpetrators of gun violence look like me, look like them, like white men, cis white men. I'm technically Roman Catholic, but my dog tags could be changed to Jedi. And I think I did. I think I did actually want to change my dog tags to Jedi while I was active duty, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be that cheap. Point being, cis white Christian male, veteran. I am everything that these conservative chuckle fucks espouse to support and embody. And yet it is the same straight white Christian male who is the largest perpetrator of active shooting, of gun violence. But that doesn't fit their narrative, because you cannot foment fear when the fear looks like you. You have to foment the fear against somebody that looks like somebody else. And that is the message that Charlie Kirk was spreading at the very moment he was shot. Because the question was asked, do you know how many active shootings have happened this year? And he said, is that including gang violence? Which is, again, discriminating and passing the torch towards an other group. Because when you say gang, you think black, you think brown, you think Muslim, right? When you think militia, that's when you think white. When you think of, what's another one? Like hate group, or I guess they wouldn't call it that. What do conservatives call their own little groups? Mostly militias, right? Patriotic organization. When you think of that, you're trying to talk about white people. But when you say gang, that immediately culturally, socially invokes images of black people. So by literally spouting hateful rhetoric in response to a question about gun violence, no less, he got by a white man, the very demographic he and people like him were purportedly trying to reach. And in his own words, he says empathy is a made-up liberal threat to society, and I don't believe it is real. It weakens it. That was his quote in some way. So people saying peace and love and set aside our differences are in fact not honoring Charlie Kirk's own values and beliefs. Oh, hold on. There's another school shooting? Hold up. There's another school shooting that happened today? Jesus Christ. So are we talking about the school shooting with Charlie Kirk or an additional school shooting outside of Charlie Kirk? Because obviously that happened at a university. Jesus fucking Christ. An additional school shooting. Colorado. All right. We'll cover that next. Shooting at Evergreen High School leaves 3 students critically injured, including the suspected shooter. Let's wrap up this video and then we'll cover that.
According to officials, the ban wasn't about censorship, at least not directly. The Ministry of Communication had ordered all global platforms to register with Nepal's authorities by August 28th. None of the big tech companies complied. So when the deadline expired, the government pulled the plug.
Irrelevant.
A handful of smaller apps like TikTok, Viber, and Nimbus did register. Telegram and Global Diary are still pending approval. But for millions of Nepalis, including the 7 million youth living abroad, the blackout means losing vital connections with friends and family.
Right. And I understand, regulating big tech. I'm a huge proponent of regulating big tech. I get that part. But what kind of response do you think is going to happen if you just shut off all social media sites to an entire country, especially when they said there are 7 million people abroad? Like, I don't know what the population of Nepal is, but 7 million ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. You're supposed to fine those tech companies into compliance. And if they just choose to not comply, then you have all that fine revenue that didn't cost the user a single fucking dime. Oh, there it was. That was the quote from Charlie Kirk. So no, I have no empathy for him whatsoever.
For Nepal's youth, the social media blackout was just the tipping point. Students and young professionals say they are tired of corruption, authoritarianism, and leaders who refuse to be accountable. One protester told AFP, "We were triggered by the ban, but that's not the only reason we are here. We are protesting against corruption that has been institutionalized in Nepal." Another student called it a fight against the government's authoritarian attitude.
Yep.
Analysts believe this generation is demanding both democratic freedoms and economic change.
That's exactly what this
far
generation
beyond
is
blocked
here
apps.
for. What is the? Who gives a shit what the government has to say? For all intents and purposes, that was the video part that we wanted. Is that Gen Z is fed up with the shit that is happening, and that they are taking a stand, at least in Nepal, and very broadly speaking in other parts of the world as well. We need that energy here in the States. Unfortunately, there is a 13% pro-conservative movement amongst Gen Z men here in America, which is a fucking problem. If our youth is divided by a 37-point gap, then we can't unite to coalesce towards the common cause of going against the corruption of this regime and the economy that we are dealing with. That's the fucking problem. Every Nepali person I meet, they support Trump. See, that's because, again, propaganda is not limited to just Israel propagandizing the West. It's also America propagandizing itself to the rest of the world and whitewashing its behavior. And then, of course, the other countries aiding, abetting, and tolerating that. So let's cover the fact that the
Former Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's home was set on fire by protesters on Tuesday after he resigned from office as anti-corruption demonstrators defied an indefinite curfew and clashed with police. It comes a day after...
An indefinite curfew? Like, what did you think was going to happen when your entire country was up in arms, rioting and burning shit down to the ground in the first place, what did you think was going to happen after you instituted an indefinite curfew, which is a middle finger to the people who are angry? Like, buddy.
19 people died and at least 100 were injured trying to storm Parliament in protest of a social media ban. In his resignation letter to Nepal's president, 73-year-old Ollie said he has quit to, quote, facilitate the solution to the problem and to help resolve it politically in accordance with the constitution. An aide to the president told Reuters the resignation has been accepted and the process to find a new leader has begun. The unrest is the worst in decades in the poor Himalayan country as protest.
I wonder why it's the worst in decades. I wonder why so many populations in so many countries are pissed off at their governments, rioting, protesting, and becoming more and more extreme to one side or the other. Could it possibly have anything to do with the inequality and the ineptitude and corruption of governments? Could it be the socioeconomic realities that people are struggling to survive and live? Could it be the fact that all of these countries are pushing aggression and crackdowns and authoritarianism upon their populations that either previously didn't experience it or certainly didn't experience it to the present? Like, let's be a little fucking real, shall we?
Protesters also set fire to other politicians' homes. Nepal has struggled with political instability and economic uncertainty since protests triggered the abolition of its monarchy in 2008.
Wow.
The army appealed on social media for people to exercise restraint. Organisers of the protests have called them demonstrations by Gen Z, driven by young people's widespread frustration over a perceived lack of action to tackle corruption and boost economic opportunities. Earlier on Tuesday, Ollie met all political parties to try curb the violence and find a solution, but anger continued as protesters gathered around the capital, Kathmandu, despite the curfew.
Huh. Imagine that. People protesting, burning shit down, and ignoring the curfew. Imagine that. Okay. So there's a lot of that. I mean, I don't want to just skip all these videos, but they're going to be pretty repetitive. So, and we're closing in on 9 o'clock. And we're halfway through the stream list, so I think
tonight
we can...
the White House.
Oh wait, I said we would cover the school shooting.
You deserve the best. At Harbor Freight, you can afford it. We design our...
Let's listen in now. This is Jackie Kelly from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office.
Shooting at Evergreen High School. The call came in at 12:24 today that we had an active shooter at the school. There are so many jurisdictions up here, I can't name them, but it's like the metro area just responded. We have 3 people who have been transported to the hospital. Don't know conditions on any of them yet. Hopefully we'll have that for you shortly. What's really important for us to get out is reunification with parents and students. That's happening at Bergen Meadow Elementary. That's at 1928 South Highwan Drive.
Okay.
We do have a live update from Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Let's go there now.
Or hold on.
This will be our first report on the shooting at Evergreen High School. The call came in at 12:24 today that we had an active shooter at the school. There are so many jurisdictions up here, I can't name them, but it's like the metro area just responded. We have 3 people who have been transported to the hospital. Don't know conditions on any of them yet.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. That was the same perspective, but from a slightly different vantage.
We do have a live update from Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Let's go there now.
1928 South Highwan Drive. The new bits of information that I have are that we have for sure 3 people who were transported to the hospital. One of those 3 is our shooter. They are all juveniles and all are critical right now. There may be a 4th person that was transported from a location in the area of where this happened. That could have been somebody who was running and fell. I don't know what that injury is. The school is clear. We used teams from all over the metro area to help do a sweep of that school, and that has been done. There is no active threat to the community or to our students anymore. A lot of work for us to do in the aftermath of this, because we have a lot of kids who witnessed, either heard it, saw it, have indicated they were shot at. So we have a lot of interviews we need to do with these kids. And this will it'll take a few hours for us to get that squared away. The school has over 900 students. So I think that's a good number for as many kids were at school today. And that's what I have. So please feel free to ask questions.
This is the thing that kills me. That just truly I find breathtaking. 4,100 whatever this is, school shooting. 300 whatever this year. 3 in critical condition. Charlie Kirk murdered at a college. And then a few hours later, this happens. And yet, the national narrative, even from conservative organizations like the NRA, is still, we don't need to regulate guns. Good people with guns prevent bad people with guns from doing bad things with guns. And yet, Colorado is an extremely pro-gun state and blue. Apparently, having resource officers didn't do a fucking thing. And even though there was a massive response of law enforcement from the region, that didn't stop the shooting from happening. So clearly, the solution is not more guns or more people being stationed in schools with guns or even having active shooter drills. What we should be doing is advocating for firearm safety training courses and registration, as well as improving access to mental health and taking child, teenager angst and emotional distress seriously. And actually doing something to prevent bullying, whether that's online or in person. Because people don't just wake up one day and be like, I'm bored, I'm going to take my parents' pistol or AR-15 and go murder people. People who are depressed and desperate and see no way out pick up their parents' weapon and go to school and murder people. And it's not like there aren't signs. And it's also not like there aren't obvious interactions that teachers and principals and students are aware of, that the bullying is happening. Well, just walk away. Tell a teacher. And then you tell the teacher and they do nothing. Or you walk away and then they find you later. Or they harass you further. Or they wait until you're off school grounds and then they find you at a diner, a cafe, at the fucking arcade. Whatever it is kids do nowadays, they will fucking find you. Or, because it's modern times, they will find you on the internet. They'll share your phone in the group chat. They will have hundreds of kids harassing you on your phone, on your social media, until you go berserk. And these are things that are easily traced, that are very fucking obvious, that come through every single investigation. Oh, this kid was bullied. Oh, this kid was dealing with this. Oh, his home situation was that. So address it. Address it. Instead of saying, oh, this isn't the problem. Access to these is the fucking problem. And the fact that so many adults just set it down right there on the floor. Oh, no big deal. It's just a firearm. Oh, look, there's ammo everywhere. It's separate, so of course it's safe. No, it's not. Because all you have to do is put the ammo in the thing, put it together, and bam, now you can go start murdering people. The parents should be held equally accountable. Equally accountable in every single instance of school shooting. Every single instance. The parents should be charged with the same exact crimes as if they themselves committed it, because they themselves did nothing to prevent it. Well, if it's a teenager, they can figure out the gun safe combination lock or get the key without the parents' notification or awareness. True. But the parents should also be aware that their kids are having fucking problems and be bringing it up to the school's attention, which should then allow the school to then do something about it. Imagine if we actually held school administrators accountable too. Principals, minimum. Principal and vice principal and the parents are all equally charged with the same crime that was committed by the shooter. If that was the national standard, I guarantee you they would start taking this shit much more seriously. And that's exactly what we fucking need. Why address it when you can play political divisiveness and hypocrisy? Good point, Pop. People are disgusting, and they politicize everything, and they try and turn it into something that targets the minorities and the weak and the vulnerable. And it's unnecessary. Not that that was intentional, but I did not realize that this cap would disappear into the void. That was really interesting. All of which is to say, this is not the problem. This needs to be secured. People with this are the problem. This by itself is a tool. Well, this is a prop. This is all a prop for legal purposes. But typically speaking, this is just a tool. And in the hands of someone that respects this tool for what it is and the danger that it possesses, it is just that, a tool. But if you're not going to treat it with the respect that it deserves, and you're not going to go out of your fucking way to ensure that it cannot be accessed by anyone other than those you allow to access it under your scrutiny and care because it's in your fucking name, is no different than letting your 10-year-old drive your fucking car and get into a car accident and killing people. It's your responsibility to make sure that that shit doesn't happen. So, I propose, if it's not already in my policy platforms, which it may or may not be, I propose that from now on, any school shooting that occurs, the person doing the shooting is, of course, charged with murder or attempted murder, but the parents are charged with the same things, and the principals and vice principals are charged with the same things, and any resource officers are charged with the same things for failure to recognize the increasing threat due to the bullying. That isn't to say arrest everyone who gets bullied. That's not the result that we are looking for here, but to address the bullies, right? The ones doing the bullying. Hold them fucking accountable. Start teaching empathy in our school. Like, there are so many fucking things that could be done to prevent this nonsense. And we are doing precisely none of them. It's tough to trust anybody with a firearm when people have turned this stupid. I agree. They think firearm usage is all fun and games. They continuously act irresponsibly, and they think it's a solution to the problem. The thing is, this is intended to be used against a tyrannical government, not Timmy, who's bullying me and taking my lunch money, or Susie, who's calling me fat and getting her entire goon squad to harass me on the internet. That's not what this is for. This is also used for hunting. But it is not used to get even with people, and that's the problem. We are failing our children, our young people, by not intervening when there are crises happening to them. And by not respecting youth mental health, we are creating an entire generations of emotionally castrated individuals who do not have the emotional intelligence to deal with conflict. Which then results in this. So, that is a true unmitigated tragedy. This is a long time coming. Wow, that's a lot of Charlie Kirk. I don't know that we actually need to watch any of those videos, but we'll see if we get to it. Let's do the
Tonight,
Venezuela.
the White House releasing this dramatic video of the U.S. blowing up a boat in the southern Caribbean. President Trump says it was carrying drugs from Venezuela and that the strike killed 11 members of the notorious gang Tren de Aragua, or TDA.
We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in
with Venezuela this summer. Now tensions with Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro are rapidly escalating.
The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror.
I know we covered this last week, which is when it happened, but the fact that this story is ongoing and that they continue to push this narrative is galling. It is diabolical. You cannot call a country's leadership illegitimate because you don't agree with what they are doing or that they are interfering with your agenda, which is committing war crimes. And generally speaking, calling another country's government illegitimate is an act of war. Like, definitively.
Or cartel.
Tonight, the president saying no U.S. forces were hurt in the strike. Maduro has claimed that the U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean is aimed at overthrowing.
Here's how we created our Pet Steps app.
Well, we gotta wait 15 seconds for this one, I think. That's fucking annoying. 15-second unskippable ads. Gotta fucking love it. And I get it, as a YouTuber, I should sign in. I should pay for it. Or not a YouTuber, a streamer. I should pay for the YouTube thing because I'm a professional streamer and it's a write-off. But I am not rewarding tech companies by being disingenuous to their viewership. I'm not doing that.
Strike on a boat this week. You just heard Tom Homan talking about it. The administration alleges was trafficking drugs
Yes,
for the Venezuelan
more U.S.
gang,
imperialism.
Tren de Aragua. 11 people in the boat were killed. J.D. Vance tweeted, "Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military," to which a liberal commentator, Brian Krasenstein, responded, "Killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime." And then J.D. Vance responded, quote, "I don't give a shit what you call it." Scott Jennings. Thoughts?
Well, I'll give you my political view of how I think most Americans are going to view it, most Republicans certainly, and that is that societal decline is a choice. And when you let people come into the country by the millions, when you let drugs flow over the border and you just say, well, let's just get them here and then see how the bureaucracy sorts it out, most people want a more aggressive response. Societal decline is a choice, and they see this illegal immigration problem and this drug flow problem.
What the flying fuck? Look at these two looking. They are thinking exactly what I am saying. What is this motherfucker talking about right now? Most Americans, the shit that just are looking at the government letting drugs come over and seeing what they can sort out, and most Americans want something done about that. Most Americans don't know nor care until you browbeat them with it for 2 months during an election cycle, and then all of a sudden they fucking care.
As part of overall societal decline, and they are hoping and looking for and happy with Trump and Vance taking a muscular response to this.
So wait, I want to read something that Senator Rand Paul said and come right to you because you used to work at the Justice Department under Biden. Senator Rand Paul, a Republican from Kentucky, said, "JD, I don't give a shit Vance," that's his words, not mine. It says, "Killing people he accuses of a crime is the highest and best use of the military. Did he ever read To Kill a Mockingbird? Did he ever wonder what might happen if the accused were immediately executed?"
See, this is the thing that pisses me off about Rand Paul. 9 times out of 10, he is the same fascist fuck as any of his other Republican constituents. Or, not constituents, counterparts. Sorry, that's what I meant. But then he'll say something that's based as fuck. Just like 100% correct. Like unequivocally correct. And this is one of them.
Without trial or representation, what a despicable and thoughtless sentiment it is to glorify killing someone without a trial.
Well, I'll say he has a lot of fair points there. I think there are things that the administration could be doing that are unlawful, and there are legal questions around it. But what I'll also say is that no administration, Republican or Democrat, has been for cartel leaders. Everyone has worked to arrest and extradite cartel leaders. But the way that they've done it successfully in the last administration, they had a dozen cartel leaders from the Sinaloa cartel that they extradited or arrested, is through the help of that country. And you have to have the intelligence from that country in order to arrest and extradite people. Once you start going around and killing people without coordination of a country, that intelligence often stops. And that is the last thing the Americans want, is for that to stop.
I just don't know how you get intelligence from a country like Venezuela.
Yes.
I mean, how? You have to stop their operational capability.
Hold up. God damn it. Are you telling me the black guy is actually a conservative fuck? Like, please tell me that's not true.
Number one, Number two, I would think about the 80s and the 90s and how drugs impacted the black community. Think about how drugs impacted poor white communities coming from south of the border. And so if you were to ask many of those family members who saw their children die or children get strung out on drugs, many children, the children of those people have parents that were in prison as a result of that drug addiction. So to me, you got to do everything you possibly can to destroy these guys. And arresting the cartel leaders, that's not enough, because you arrest one, then someone else rises to the top.
What do you think about this, Drake?
Well, I mean, I think we all want drugs kept out of our country, and we should be firm on that. I also believe that in America, you get due process, and just being accused, I haven't seen any solid evidence, and I look forward to having a full confidential briefing.
You know, every fucking day, Democrats and CNN just make me weep further for the erosion of our democracy. Because you got, like you just said, True Steel, they love hiring black people to launder in these talking points. And then you have the feckless Democrat, both a representative and the former spokesperson for the DNC, just giving a whole bunch of lip service of, well, we arrested these guys, we did these things, we are doing due process. Like, none of you are talking about the fact that we just extrajudicially murdered people on a boat that was an order by the president to do so after we illegally entrenched upon Venezuelan sovereign territory. Like, we're not even discussing that. We're just talking about the criminals broadly, like as if it was an abstract concept that we were discussing, and not the actual, by definition, invasion that is occurring against Venezuela by the United States of America. Like, how can people stomach this shit? And I want to talk about it. Fuck, the only other video is also CNN.
Get more for less with Tim Hortons $1, $2, $3 menu.
I get it that
Order any
there
size
are probably
beverage.
not that many people covering it, which is another part of the problem. Obviously, we can't watch it from Fox News. They're going to say that, you know, kill them all, bomb these countries into next Tuesday, and then let the people rebuild from there. At least then we'll have gotten all the cartel members. I get that. And I get that MSNBC might not be covering it at all. But, like, it's infuriating how propagandized our news is. It's infuriating.
Venezuela is not looking for a conflict with the United States, they
Correct.
say, but
apparently the U.S. is looking for one with Venezuela.
Threats. That's the message from Venezuela's foreign minister, who sat down with CNN in an exclusive interview just days after the U.S. carried out a military strike on a boat leaving Venezuela, allegedly carrying drugs. Here's CNN's Stefano Pozzobon.
Well, Jake, the Venezuelan foreign minister, Ivan Gil, sat down with CNN for an exclusive interview. He told us that he does not believe that this current confrontation will lead to an open war between the two countries, and called the White House behavior on Venezuela bipolar. At the same time, you remember that one of the most controversial episodes of this crisis took place last week, when the Department of Defense announced that it took out a Venezuelan speedboat allegedly carrying drugs into the Caribbean Sea and effectively killing 11 Venezuelan nationals. Here is what the foreign minister told us about that episode.
We can't explain this, and we should ask the U.S. military, how can they degrade themselves by using destructive technology against a defenseless
Yes! 1,000,000 times yes! What have I been saying this entire time? Every time this regime orders the military to do something, every single fucking time, it has been either a war crime or a crime against humanity, or sometimes, in this case, both. The military can never target civilians. Rules of engagement require you to verify that that they are determined to be lawful targets. And you most certainly cannot send cruise missiles against civilians. Using weapons of war against civilians is a crime against humanity. It's also a war crime. It's both. Jesus.
For an international investigation into that incident.
We have seen a whole story of violations of international laws, protocols of engagement, the very same protocols of the U.S. Coast Guard.
Just to be clear, The Venezuelan FM has literally just repeated everything I just said. So I'm not making this shut up, and I'm not wearing this uniform for fun. Like, I earned this uniform, I wore this uniform with purpose, and I'm putting it back on for the same exact purpose. Serving my country ethically and honorably.
And of the U.S. armed forces that are being violated.
We've also covered many allegations about violations of human rights here in Venezuela from this government against the Venezuelan population.
Okay, but we are part of the Human Rights Council, and yet we disagree on how they acted here, with a double standard.
Yeah!
There are no violations of human rights in Venezuela.
Look, in Venezuela, we have exemplary behavior when it comes to human rights.
Well, my countrymate, Alberto Trentini, has been detained here since October last year. It's been 11 months. He still hasn't.
Listen. I get what you're trying to do here. You're trying to put this motherfucker on the spot for, lying, which is fine. That is your job. That is actually ideal. That I wish more reporters would do that, right? When given the opportunity and presented with it, don't let it slip. Go after the motherfucker. But we are talking about America right now, and you're trying to make it look like both sides are bad in this circumstance, which isn't the case. Venezuela may very well be a scumbag country with a scumbag government. I don't know. I don't really care. That's not the point of this topic, which is that America, in this context, is antagonizing a sovereign state. Now, should Venezuela have a leg to stand on if they're going to complain about encroachment by a foreign country? Sure, fine, yes, we're not going to argue that. But it doesn't change the fact that America is the one that's in the wrong. So why are you bringing up other shit in this interview? And why are you airing that question in this video? So here's my thing. Venezuela can very easily be held just as accountable for their crimes as every other country, so long as every other country actually follows through with it. That is my fucking problem with international law. There's never any fucking follow through. Yes, and I mean, the U.S. is violating human rights daily with a 7,000 personnel quota by ICE. So, I mean, like, this guy doesn't have a leg to stand on either by asking that question.
Seen a judge nor been able to speak with his family.
Yes, but his human rights are not being violated. I know this case.
He should be seen a judge.
He has a lawyer. He's on trial. There's a lawsuit going on, and it will continue its course.
All right. Give me a second here. I need to take a quick break. Shouldn't be more than a couple minutes. I tried making sure that our revolutionary music plays well, so hopefully that actually happens this time. So give me a quick second. Everybody take a quick drink break, whatever you got to do.
Cole, he's my miracle child. So how does your miracle child get cancer?
Got a little carried away again there. All right. Welcome back to the stream. Maybe I need to find a few different types of songs here, because like some of the music takes a second to go in, and I just adjusted my ad blocker so that it hopefully blocks more ads on YouTube when I play it. So anyway, what should we cover in the last 30 minutes? Oh, no. We still got plenty of shit to cover. Polish and NATO forces. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ!
The general gives you a break to keep you covered.
Really?
Yeah, whether it's on
Russia and Poland?
Taking a break from being the
again?
Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk has confirmed that Russian drones were shot down in Polish airspace overnight.
Are you fucking kidding me? Seriously? Russia in Polish airspace. Why? Again, the aggression in Ukraine is bad enough. Why is Russia in Polish airspace? For fuck's sake. This doesn't make sense.
He said it was the first time this had happened in NATO territory. Mr. Tusk called it a large-scale provocation and said he was ready to repel such provocations. Well, Mr. Tusk has been meeting with defense and security officials to discuss the violation.
Is it just me, or have the international events gotten more aggressive week over week over week? Because, like, I don't remember shit being this bad this time last year. I don't remember it being that bad. I really don't remember it being this much trying to aggress here, aggress there. It was mostly just Israel being garbage and like the few conflicts that occurred. But it feels like all of these incidents are just escalating and escalating and escalating globally. Sometimes limited to just the country, like Nepal. But sometimes it's between Pakistan and Bangladesh, or India and... Or was that India and Pakistan? Either which way, it seems like there are more and more conflicts, and now Russia is expanding the Russo-Ukrainian war into actual NATO territory vis-a-vis Poland. Like, we don't need World War III. We really fucking don't need it. We don't need it from Israel, we don't need it from Russia, and we sure as shit don't need it from America. Can we chill? Like, am I asking too much?
He said that although the search for drones is ongoing, there was no reason to panic and the situation is now under control. Well, the incursions happened during Russian attacks on targets in Ukraine, and Ukraine's President Zelensky said it set an extremely dangerous precedent for Europe.
Yes,
Russia
it did.
is yet to comment. So let's cross over live to Warsaw, to the Polish capital, to speak to my colleague Adam Easton. And although the ongoing situation is now descaled, Adam, obviously this is a huge concern.
Yes, Kasia, this is obviously not the first time that Russian drones have violated Polish airspace, but this is the first time that Polish and NATO allied military aircraft, the Dutch F-35s are currently stationed in Poland, engaged Russian drones and shot them down. This is the first time, as Prime Minister Tusk said in his remarks ahead of the government crisis meeting, this he's described as probably a large-scale provocation by Moscow. Now,
why?
The authorities in Minsk in Belarus,
I still don't understand why. Russia still hasn't wrapped up Ukraine. Why would it, like, I'm not understanding the why here. I'm really, like, let me look at a map here real quick, because I know Poland borders Germany. So, map of Europe. So, Poland borders Germany, and Poland also borders Ukraine. So, it's like Poland is here, and then Ukraine goes across like this, and then it touches Russia. And so, Ukraine, Poland, and then Germany is right here. But the war, the battlefronts in the Ukraine do not stretch across the entire country of Ukraine, and certainly not the border of Poland. Like, that is 100% an overreach by Russia. That's insane to me. That is absolutely fucking insane to me.
we know that 2 of these drones have been discovered. Polish police have confirmed one, and local authorities have confirmed another. Landed without causing any casualties, but damage to one house quite close to the Belarusian border with Poland, in eastern Poland.
Yep, Belarus is above Poland.
We know that the authorities in Minsk have said that they alerted the Polish military that drones had gone off course and were heading towards Poland. But the significance of this, although no casualties have been reported, Mr. Tusk said, this is the first time that so many drones, we don't know exactly how many, President Zelensky in Ukraine said 8, Donald Tusk said a large number, had entered Polish airspace, violating Polish airspace, and had actually been shot down. So that's the first time that this has happened, and the Polish military called it an unprecedented act of aggression.
So tell me, Adam, then we're not 100% sure if this was a deliberate attempt for Russian drones to stray into Polish airspace. Whatever has happened, however this has got to this position, Donald Tusk and Karol Nawrocki, the new president, they're going to have to be working together in order to try and work out how best to deal with this situation.
That's right, Kasia. Mr. Tusk and President Nawrocki have already met this morning in a meeting of the National Security Bureau, and they are coordinating there. They are from different political camps, of course. They're opponents on the domestic political scene, but when it comes to national...
Yeah, I think that's enough of that. So... Russia might have accidentally flown drones through Belarus, which is in the north of Poland, and nowhere close in the direction of Ukraine, and then got into Polish airspace.
One time, our sump pump died at 10 p.m. So we called Atlas Butler.
Why not? Yeah, and they were on it immediately.
First to Ukraine, where the capital in Kyiv has been rocked by explosions after a series of Russian missile and drone attacks. Several high-rise buildings are on fire. Ukraine's Prime Minister says for the first time during the war, the country's main government building has been damaged. Helicopters are trying to douse the flames.
So that to me is kind of a signal that if Russia has finally gotten this deep into Ukraine, that it is threatening the capital, they are now accidentally sending drones into Poland. It's that definitely, those two things together, separately, might be completely unconnected separately if it didn't happen within the same week. If it happened a month ago and then this happened, okay, fine, sure, whatever. But the fact that they happen in such close proximity suggests that Russia isn't going to stop with the Ukraine. That they are testing the waters for further expansion, which, again, raises and begs the question, fucking what? You know, what? I can't read Cyrillic language, but I'm going to go English to Russian here. English to Russian. Why are you doing this? Zachem tio eto deliesh. Okay? Zachem, or Zachem. I don't know how they pronounce the CH in Russian. Here, let's see if we can hear it.
Зачем ты это делаешь?
Oh, yeah, there we go. Zачем ты это делаешь? Let's hear it again.
Зачем ты это делаешь?
Why are you doing this? Stop. Нет. Нет. Silencia. Stop acting like this. Перестань вести себя так.
Перестань вести себя так.
Vesti. Oh, maybe they pronounce their V's like the Romans. Vesti себя так. Перестань вести себя так. Stop acting like this. God damn. Is there not enough bullshit in the world? We gotta expand the Cold War. Like, what? Because this is like the opening salvos of the World War II, except instead of Germany invading Poland, it's Russia. Like, can we not? Like, each World War has been marked with a Polish invasion. The first two times, it was Germany. This time around, it seems like it might be Ruskvia. Please fucking stop.
Officials say at least 3 people have been killed and nearly 20 injured in Kyiv. Well, let's cross to our correspondent Sarah Rainsford, who is in the capital. And Sarah, this is being seen as a highly significant attack.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm standing now is just at the bottom of the hill that leads up to the main government quarters here. This is right in the heart of official Kyiv, the city centre, where all the administrative buildings are. The parliament's up there, the cabinet of ministers is up there, the presidential palace is a little further up in the distance. And it was the cabinet of ministers, so the main government building here, that was hit in this latest aerial attack by Russia. Now, this was a combination of drones and missiles launched across Ukraine by Russia in the early hours of this morning. And according to the numbers that we've had from the Air Force this morning, it was the biggest ever attack of this war. More than 800 drones and missiles that were fired. And I think hitting a government building for the first time is something that will shake people here. It is a symbolic.
Yeah. Usually the symbol of having your capital struck by an invading force, an enemy army, is that you are about to lose the war. If an enemy country is able to target your existing capital and damage your government buildings in the existing capital, you are about to fucking lose whatever conflict you're about to have. So we're about to see the end of the Ukrainian-Russian war. But are we also going to see the beginning of World War III? And let's rephrase this. How? Because it's not even a question of if World War III is going to happen in our lifetime. It's a question of who is going to be the catalyst. Right now, America aiding and abetting Israelis' genocide in Palestine and Israel attacking everybody in the Middle East, Israel could be igniting World War III in that area, aided and abetted by the United States and Europe. In Europe, we could have the traditional start to World War III with the invasion of Poland, which has also traditionally been Germany, but now it seems like it might be Russia instead. So we have the traditional start to world wars, invasion of Poland. Or it could be the United States antagonizing the entire South American continent and antagonizing them into military action, which technically America has fired the first shot in a military conflict with Venezuela. Venezuela has every fucking right, legal right, to retaliate against the United States of America. Every legal right to do so, because America unilaterally murdered 11 of their citizens on a boat without verifying fucking anything, let alone coordinating with Venezuela. Again, of all the things America could have done, instead of just murdering those people on their own volition, they could have coordinated with Venezuela. Hey, do you recognize these people? Are these your people? Are these trend whatever? Okay. You don't know? Great. Cool. Why don't we send a spy drone over there and check it out? Because we have them on camera. We had them on camera enough to target them, but we didn't have them on camera enough to verify them? Really? We shot them in international waters anyway, which again, crime. So why not follow them a little bit further and verify? So there are three possible beginnings of World War III. America's aggression against South America, Israel's aggression against the Middle East, and Russia using the traditional starting of a world war by invading Poland. What the fuck? And then people wonder why I stress eat on stream. I'm trying to get rid of all my snacks so I don't stress eat. But, yeah, I don't fucking know. This honey's really good, by the way. Thank you, Anna. You did good. I appreciate your support. Okay. Wow, we have quite a bit still. All right. Cool. I thought we were running out of stuff, so that's good.
All right, team, listen up. There's a national blood shortage. Big Ten schools, how do we get students, fans, alumni to donate?
Now, Iran says more talks are needed to decide how UN inspections of its nuclear sites will be carried out. That's after Iran and the UN nuclear watchdog reached a deal on how to cooperate. That happened on Tuesday. The agreement was signed in Cairo in Iran's first high-level meeting with the International Atomic Energy Agency since its war with Israel in June. Tohed Asadi has this report.
Are they really calling that a war? It was a several-day conflict. I kind of wonder what constitutes the definition of war then. A exchange of combat between two countries, no matter how long it lasts, is definitive war? Because that would be, I feel like that should be called a skirmish or battle or conflict, not a whole war. A war seems like something that should be drug out a little bit longer.
From Tehran.
Following a meeting between Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, both sides announced an agreement to resume the suspended cooperations between the agency and the country. Rafael Grossi, following the agreement, said that it was an important step in the right direction. He said that the agreement paves the way for respective access and inspection of Iran's nuclear facilities, and now, according to this new agreement and according to the Director General of IAEA, there are new modalities and new procedures in a clear way to conduct this inspection. He also said that it covers actually required reporting on the targeted nuclear facilities of the country, and more importantly, the nuclear material inside those targeted facilities. According to Rafael Grossi, the cooperation between the two sides is going to be based on mutual respect. Meanwhile, we had the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi saying that Iran's security concerns have been taken into consideration. He also warned that in case of any hostile action, including the restoration of the United Nations Security Council resolutions, Iran is going to stop implementation of the steps agreed upon. This is obviously a critically important development in the ties between the agency and the country, but the extent to which these agreements are going to be translated into real action remains to be seen. Toida said.
4 ways World War III could start. 4 ways. And the Security Council consists of who? Primarily involved in that, causing issues? America. So if the United States of America sticks its stupid fucking orange, yellow-haired nose into this business again, one more method and route into World War III, notice how America is at the center of not 1, not 2, but 3 potential routes, pathways to World War III. Yet somehow we're the good guys.
Now, demonstrators in France have been rallying against proposed cuts to the national budget. Organisers are calling for nationwide protests, including school walkouts and traffic blockades. Protesters say budget cuts would broaden inequality and affect the cost of living. The austerity plan was proposed by
Why are governments so keen on passing austerity provisions? And like they call it austerity. Austerity is synonymous with bad at this point, is it not? Am I missing something? Like, I really am under the impression that the term austerity is synonymous with bad. Very, 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 very bad. Has historical and legal connotations with bad. The wrong decision. The wrong policy position. And yet, these fuckers constantly do it. So austerity is another word for cutting programs. Is that what I need to understand here? Because, like, every government does it and then are shocked when people come up and be like, hey, don't do that. Unbelievable.
Prime Minister Francois Bayrou, who resigned on Monday night following a vote of no confidence. The new Prime Minister is Sébastien Lecornu. He's just been sworn in Paris. President Emmanuel Macron is hoping the former defence minister and close ally will help him pass a national budget by the end of the year. Well, Lecornu says the government will have to be creative and work with opposition parties. For more, let's go to Natasha Butler. She's in Paris. And Natasha, quite a welcome for this new Prime Minister, the third in just the last year, the fifth in 2 years, and a sign, these protests, that things are not going to be easy.
At least the French constantly are protesting against this fuckery because, again, they went through 5 prime ministers in 2 years, and I'm pretty damn certain when we looked this up last week that the prime minister serves for like several years, and not a single prime minister has actually managed to serve that long for at least the past 2 years. And the fact that the prime minister, who is in charge of domestic affairs, continues to fuck around thinking that they're not going to find out this time. Like, thank God the French continue to fight back, because why do these prime ministers keep doing this? And who keeps electing them in the first place? Like, who keeps thinking it's a great idea to put austerity supporting prime ministers into power when France will fucking riot without a second thought? And Macron, right, he is part of the fucking problem. I wish America had a fraction of the willingness to stand up to our government that France has against their government. Like, the French will revolt over everything. And we won't even revolt over the possibility that our president might be part of a elite pedophile ring. We won't revolt over the fact that our government is aiding and abetting genocide. We won't revolt over the fact that our government just passed austerity measures. We're not revolting over any of the key things that have happened against us. We're not revolting against martial law. We're not revolting against concentration camps. We're not revolting against hunting immigrants for profit. Like, we're not we are not protesting any of it. So, like, I don't know what the fucking line is. Stupidity wins, evidently. They really do. You can cut their smoking break by 5 minutes and they burn that shit down. Yet we call the French pussies. Right. It doesn't make any sense. The mind can either be your friend or your enemy, and this demonstrates the latter. People are so easily duped they play on their brain. And our social media, our news networks, and AI, and this, that, and the other, have been proven, scientifically, unequivocally proven, to destroy our critical thinking skills. Which is actually kind of evinced by me earlier today, not being able to give my normal rhetoric and speech, my sassy speeches, because I couldn't get the wordsmithing out fast enough. So, like, everybody's impacted by this because we are constantly bombarded by the propaganda and by the various, what do I want to say, message crafting of this administration and the media that we deal with. Better than Marie Le Pen, his opponent is a Nazi. Yeah, no, I mean, we literally get effed in the butthole with no lubricants, and we just sit here and take it. Yeah. America needs to step the fuck up and dig deep to our revolutionary roots.
Easy for him.
Well, they won't be easy for him. Look, if you look behind me, there are people demonstrating in the street. It's not just here in Paris, but in different parts of France. There's been a call to action on social media to try and bring France to a standstill. And some of the people we've been speaking to here say that they are absolutely fed up with the government. They see the Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, as no different than his predecessors. It's just a continuation of Emmanuel Macron's policies. And what's interesting with these protests is you have people from all walks of life, all ages, but the message is the same, that same sense that they just want a change in France.
So my question is, how have these protests gotten rid of 5 PMs in 2 years, but not Macron? How have they not forced the president to resign? That's my curiosity here. Like, is he trying to placate the protests by changing the PM? Because I think, did we not cover this? I think we said that the PM is actually selected by the president, right? Am I misremembering that? Because if that's the case, then Macron can just dangle a carrot in front of the protesters, be like, hey, here's a new one. Oh, we'll get rid of him. Yep, absolutely, we'll get rid of him. Here's a new one. Oh, it's the same fucking guy. Oh, sorry, we'll get rid of him. Hey, here's another guy with a wig. Nope, okay, we don't like it. All right, cool. So how haven't the French protesters forced Macron to resign? That's what I'd like to know. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting show. We can debate why people are so horrible regarding the Kirk news, celebrating his yay to innocent lives going bye-bye, and then they tell you to not celebrate his death. Yeah, no, we covered that today too a little bit, but tomorrow would be more appropriate. Now she says what she says, but she doesn't read the room that nobody wanted her either, and she still said, bring on the delegates, I'm going or the win. Yeah, that doesn't matter if Macron has the bankers on his side. If the people, burn down Versailles and the president's mansion, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, now, that's the thing about French protesters. They usually don't get into the destruction aspect of it. But then again, they have shut down public utilities and streets and services in the past. So, again, I just don't know why they're not doing that. And why it isn't forcing Macron to resign. What do we got left here? We got Brazil's Supreme Court judge. And then I don't know what this video actually contains, but Norway has a new PM. Hopefully he's not a scumbag that tries to pass austerity measures. The video, was that this one? Oh, okay. So let's keep this video in our lists for sure. But this is 6 years ago. This isn't modern. I like, this isn't current news. I think this would make more sense if we end up adding another day, or we can add it to our Thursday streams. Like, keep this video in our Thursday stream list. I'm sure we'll get to it eventually. But yeah. Oh, he's the PM from the Labour Party? Yeah, then
The Norwegian Labour Party is set to keep its coalition government by just a handful of seats after voting ended on Monday, with Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre withstanding a challenge by right-wing parties energized over the cost of living, immigration, and a wealth tax.
Why is the right-wing party always a blonde female or an extremely Nazi-coded white dude? Like, it's never somebody of color. It's never somebody young or like relatively young, I guess. Like, it's always somebody with blonde hair, always, or a really old man. Like, yeah, because they're Nazis. I mean, it definitely seems to be the case.
Inflation, we have got inflation down, interest rates are going down, and then of course also what's around Norway now with war in Ukraine, the Middle East, how we secure our foreign policy in a predictable way.
Jens Stoltenberg gave Labour a boost with his return as finance minister after nearly a decade as NATO chief.
Stoltenberg has played a particularly important role, and he has very good diplomatic skills. So he's a skilled politician, I think, who I would like to continue to have in a government.
I feel like the world is kind of like crumbling around us, and so I would like stability in our
NATO chief, head of the CIA, head of the KGB. It's almost as if all these people just are doing circuits. Like, all right, I gotta check this one off the list and then I can become prime minister. I check this one off the list and I can become president. Well, I mean, it's Western society, so of course they're gonna sound like everybody else in Western society.
Norway's oil reserves maintain a $2 trillion sovereign wealth fund, but wild shifts in U.S. trade policy could threaten that fortune.
There's no way.
The international situation with the...
No. There is no fucking way that the U.S. can influence $2 trillion of GDP of Norway when Norway doesn't even have a $2 trillion GDP. Like, come on.
The election of Donald Trump in the U.S. made people sort of rally around the sitting government.
Labour keeping its coalition will require addressing voters' concerns about whether the sovereign wealth fund divests from Israeli firms amid the genocide in Gaza, as the coalition's left wing demands.
I voted for them before, and I wouldn't mind voting for them again, but there's also different parties that, kind of feel like doing more for Gaza, and that's where my vote is going.
Støre has said Norway should not support companies that profit from human rights violations. But Norwegian divestment from U.S. construction firm Caterpillar, whose equipment Israel uses to demolish Palestinian homes, has already drawn the ire of the Trump administration.
Good!
Støre will need to navigate a world where politics is no longer local. Wilson Dysart, Al Jazeera.
All right.
Don't miss out.
I think that's a good stopping point for today. Let's add the Bolsonaro for tomorrow as well. And then obviously we'll cover the Charlie Kirk and probably the school shooting. And I guess Elon Musk isn't the richest person on Earth anymore. Oh no, who fucking cares? We're going to seize his wealth anyway when we enter the White House. So, all of that to say, you're not stopping now, dance. A little bit of this. The little lasso. All right. So, thank you all for joining us again. It has been a pleasure streaming with you all. This has been Worldwide Wednesdays with your president, Samuel Ronan. Tomorrow will be Recap Thursdays, where we cover the crazy shit that has been happening in the past 24 to 48 hours that we did not get to cover on their respective days. We're also looking at expanding our streaming days to a few more days over the next month or so. We'll probably we're trying to consider maybe like mid to late October, depending on how our various schedules work out. But we are getting to a point where we think expanding, now that we're back in the groove of streaming, now that you've seen my bright smiling face again, and we're used to doing the streams and interacting, and we have a nice presentation, we have a nice setup. XSplit still pisses me off, but we can deal with that later. We can figure things out and grow together as a community and hopefully start stealing Hassan's viewership, because, you know, there can be two handsome 6'4" people here with, you know, bulging muscles talking about politics. So on that note, I'd like to see you all tomorrow. Like, share, subscribe if you've enjoyed the stream and the channel. Share on social media, on all social media, and direct people here to twitch.tv/Samuel Ronan. And on that note, I will see you all tomorrow. You have a great night. Samuel Ronan, out.